Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the NuttyCast. My name is Nutty Rat. It is Thursday, and I don't usually stream. I typically don't stream on Thursdays. Thursdays are typically a really hard day at work for me, so I tend to avoid streaming, mainly because I get a chance to relax and unwind. I'll say today is no exception. It's been absolutely insane at work today. But with the announcement that just happened, well, not just, but earlier today, Piranha Games, and we'll get right into it, Piranha Games has announced MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is an Epic Game Store exclusive. On top of that, as you can see from the website here, the release date has been pushed to December 10th, 2019, so it's being pushed a couple more months ahead. It was supposed to, the original launch date was on September 10th, 2019. And I had even booked vacation off so I could have a full week of streaming the hell out of that game. Now that the plans have changed a little bit. So let's get right into a lot of stuff here. Let me just pull up my, let's just do a little bit of backstory here as to what happened. So someone on Reddit, this is going back a ways, discovered that the FAQ on the MW5 Merc site had changed. They had actually condensed it from, a good 30 or so questions down to 6. And there were a lot of concerns that came out of that. And let me pull over, let's pull this over. Snowgirl was nice enough to. I don't know if anybody. I don't know if anybody archived the changed one or not. But this is the FAQ that was posted originally for MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. As you can see, we're not going to go through the questions. We're just gonna. I just want to kind of bring this up as an illustrative point, in that they had a ton of questions around a whole bunch of things, including how the game is being distributed, all that kind of stuff. And if we do a find, Steam, you'll see that there's actually 8 references to Steam in the entire file. I probably can't see there, 1 of 8. We can step our way through it. You can see that they're talking about Steam keys and Steam and all that kind of stuff. But then what happened is they went and changed the FAQ and removed. They basically dropped it down to 6 questions, and somebody astute mentioned that, and it came. And the topic came up on Reddit. So what I did is then posed a question and said, "Hey Russ, a lot of folks are concerned about the changes to the MechWarrior 5 FAQ, specifically removing mentions of the exclusive beta and being released on Steam. Can you provide some insight?" So then Russ actually responded right away. And I do want to kind of, preface this by saying that I try to be as respectful in my discourse as possible. I try not to be too antagonistic, because I have a, my I guess my adage is that, if I'm aggressive and inflammatory and speaking with somebody, that I'm not going to get the answer that I want or that I need. So I try to keep as much level head as I possibly can. So Russ was actually taken by surprise. He's like, "Well, didn't they just take down the FAQ with the pre-order page?" And I think this kind of caught Russ into a bit of a corner, because he goes, "Oh no, it's just the FAQ for the new updated MechWarrior 5 site we're going to launch soon." And by the way, keep in mind, this was before they announced the AMA, which, by the way, the AMA is in 25 minutes time. I'll just zoom in here a little bit so you guys can read this a little bit better. Sorry about that. Zoom in. There we go. That should be nice, and that's big enough for everybody there. You can see it's just the FAQ for the new updated site, and I'll say in fairness, sure, like that's I think that's fair. Yes, enhance, and then I posted I kind of sent him the link for the Reddit thread that was there. And as you can see, MW5 FAQ cut down massively all mentions, and the kind of the trailing end of that is all mentions of Steam. I don't want to click into it because it's Reddit. Reddit's kind of a scary one to go into. And then Russ said, "Well, now you don't know this. It's just a site update incoming. No need to have the pre-order bits in the FAQ." And I said, "Thank you for taking the time to answer this question." But somebody else pointed out, but as you can see, there's a lot of thing here. You can see here that there's 26 replies to this. If we go into this, there's going to be some strong language. Keep in mind. So let's go into this tweet and let's take a look at the replies. Again, this was the initial conversation. Thank you for taking the time, and then this is where a lot of the speculation starts coming in. This is a little bit out of order. This one kind of nails it right on the head. The concern was over any mention of Steam game disappearing and you retweeting. Russ has been tweeting the CEO Tim Sweeney a lot. Fueling fears you're going to make this game an Epic Games exclusive. Keep in mind, this is 9 days ago that this has come up. So and I replied to him and I stand by this. And I think this is a pretty uncontroversial thing to say, in that if Piranha Games was to release MechWarrior 5 on Steam, GOG, Epic Games, frickin', pick your game store, right? If they want to release it on multiple distribution platforms, I think it's fantastic. It gives more visibility to the game. They certainly have to deal with different agreements. I kind of get the struggle there, but this is a great way of seeing. Getting as many eyes on it as possible, and again, keep on. We're still on July 16th, and there's no problem about it. People have already said they'll be asking for refunds, doing chargeback. If this is an Epic Games Store exclusive, and this has actually been quite the thing. And of course, Ave Mortem's a huge Fortnite fan, so he's really big into Epic Games, and that's fair. We're certainly going to have people on both sides of the equation. Some people that that want to have the game, have it on Epic Games. They see the value there, and we'll go into to some of that and talk about it a little bit. Again, just to trying to put as fair a slant on it as I can, and of course now you can see a bunch of people here 5 hours ago. So that was a lie. Everybody, and then again, this is talking about July, back on July 16th, huge load off my mind. Personally, wouldn't mind if you guys have the game available on Epic, just not exclusively. So there's a big thing about the exclusivity part. And you can see now we're getting into all the tweets from today, and as you can see, people here are pretty upset, and I would say rightfully so. We have somebody here who joined Twitter just to tell them not to do an Epic Games exclusive. So this is certainly a pretty controversial kind of tweet storm that happened after this thread was started. Russ then said we're going to do an AMA, and then he pushed it to this week. Then it was brought up by Sid Alpha. Sid Alpha did a video about it and referenced the this tweet thread. There's an article up on Sarna about it, and again they referenced the tweet thread. So this is obviously something that a lot of people care about. So fast forward to today. Let's go ahead and I got the. Fast forward today, we get this. We get the MechWarrior 5 release date and Epic Games Store exclusivity. This was announced 8 hours ago. Cyclone Jack, how you doing? Cold Turkey, Laius, Timeliness, Melted Snow Grill. Hey guys, be the hero you need. What kind of hero do you need there, Cyclone Jack? Help me out here, my friend. How can I be of service? So, the pillow to give you a damn nap. Oh my goodness, I'll give you a pillow. I got a big giant one right here. It's called my spare tire. So, let's look at whether or not this is or is not a good thing. And just a fair warning, I'm in the AMA Discord now. So I can't be in my Discord and that Discord at the same time. So once Russ starts talking, or whoever's actually doing the AMA, then I'm going to shut up and let them talk. Leia says you PG MechWarrior license on loan. Well, it's not on loan. They've licensed it. Technically, any kind of licensing is a loan, and it really depends on what the licensing terms are, which we don't really know. So we don't. Microsoft might have kind of done like a blanket statement about that, but again, we don't know what the license terms are. So let's talk about exclusivity. Let's talk about the. We'll talk about from the first part about the facts of the matter, and then we can talk about the controversy. So let's talk about the facts. Well, when you release a game on brick and mortar stores, so let's take a step back and let's go to brick and mortar stores. You know your EB Games, whatever your local game store is that sells install media. The believe it or not, the split between those two is 50-50. So 50% to the developer and 50% to the store. And that's physical. Oh, I wish I had a touchscreen. Actually, I do, but I just don't have it set up. So no, I saw the whole thing there, Liz. We'll like I said, we'll see. The reason why I say we'll see is because while Microsoft might have said that specifically, we don't know what the negotiated license terms are between Microsoft and Piranha Games specifically, because they can't kind of recant anything that they put in the license terms without issuing a new license. So, well, again, it's hard to speculate on that as to whether that's going to be an issue with Microsoft. Grayson, four more drinks in my mouth, so I think it'll be perfect. So again, so again, 50-50 split is for physical brick and mortar stores. Then Steam comes along, and Steam says, "Well, hey, hang on a second. We can. How about this? We're going to take 30%, which leaves you 70%. So that's a pretty damn good split, right?" So then Epic Games comes along and says, "Well, hang on a second. Let's take this a step further. We're only going to take 12% and then give you 88%. But there's more to it than that." So I'm not sure that everybody knows this, but Epic Games owns and develops the Unreal Engine. And when you're buying game engines, they typically work. Oh, if that's the case, Colonel Wolf, you're going to kill people. The way that licensing, when it comes to engines, there's usually some kind of license term around either revenue share or a lump sum. Unreal is one of those engines that work with revenue share. So in this case, and let's just do this here. So we'll go +5, and we'll do +5. So the kind of the revenue split on Steam actually becomes 35%. 30% to Steam, 5% to Epic Games. So every time you buy a game, doesn't matter whether what the distribution platform is. If it's the Unreal Engine, Epic Games gets a cut of it. I'll say notwithstanding any kind of special. Notwithstanding any kind of special negotiation or anything like that. We're just talking at the very base level because that's all we can do, right? We don't know the specifics. So what Epic Games said is they said, you know what? If you release with us and release with us exclusively, this 12% includes the Unreal licensing. So that's huge. That's a massive amount that they're able to drop. So that on its own is competitive. Now I'm trying to slice this up into the individual pieces here because I don't want it's very easy to kind of get into really bizarre arguments. So I just want to focus on this one just for a moment, right? So Piranha Games, if we're talking like $100 million game, which I know it's not a $100 million game. Let's just say for the sake of argument, it is, right? That means if it's brick and mortar, they're going to get $50 million if it's released exclusively there. If it's released exclusively on Steam, then it'll be, well, $65 million, right? A little bit more. Then you get to here, to the Epic Game Store, and it's $88 million. Yes, I chose 100 on purpose because I didn't want to do math. but it helps to kind of illustrate the point. Now, Lucy, I think you're right. It's in addition to the 88 to the 12%. There's certainly some other funds changing hands. But we're talking about just the base difference between the three different types of distribution platform. Again, physical, Steam, and Epic Games Store. I don't know what GOG is like, or any of the other ones that are out there. I don't know what those distributions are like, but it's, there's certainly potentially some kind of ambiguity there. So this is if we're looking at just the economic argument, and again, let's set aside the changing kind of directions on pre-orders, all that kind of stuff. This is a very attractive number. These numbers, these two numbers become too close together. So this is a huge deal for a game studio the size of PGI. In fact, they're an indie game studio. They're, they're kind of they're a bit. I'm going to hazard a guess just by the MWO update, and to say that they're kind of in, I'll say, they're in financial difficulty. Certainly they are, if with the dev studio the size that they are. So just on the economic argument alone, isolated from everything else, right? So isolated against, let's say, setting aside like things like pre-orders, setting aside refunds, all that kind of stuff. This is what the revenue split looks like for in a case where you have a company that's kind of in a very difficult position financially. That's actually I'll say a relatively reasonable place to be in. All of the, again, isolating everything else, notwithstanding the whole fact that it was promised to be released on Steam, GOG, and they said they were exploring other game stores like or distribution platforms like Epic Games, but they weren't at the time when they answered that question. They were not seeking an Epic Games exclusive. So there's that part. So then let's talk about the practices of Epic Games, which I think this is where people get very upset about going to Epic Games exclusive. And Piranha Games needs to not ignore this. And that is that the business practices, now this is my personal opinion, I would say there are a lot of people that are that share this opinion, but I'm not going to put words in people's mouth and say that this is everybody's opinion. No, I will just say that for now this is my opinion, in that the business practices of Epic Games with how they are going about the whole exclusive sorry, my brain.exe is dying. Down the road of exclusive releases is very anti-consumer, right? An important part of capitalism is having choice. Not just choice in whether you want to buy something or not. Certainly, you can vote with your wallet, and you can not buy something, or in the case here, you can do a refund. But it makes sense to have more eyes on you. So having something release in multiple game stores is actually very, very useful, because again, you get more eyes, more different communities looking at the same thing. Reset your brain by running whiskey.exe. Yes. Now, the CEO of Epic Games has been on record. You know, the Tim Sweeney has been on record saying that the revenue split, and this is the funny and ironic part, is that the split between the two, right? The revenue split, you know, what we're talking about, you know, the 35-65, because, you know, 30 for Steam, 5 for Epic, and again, assuming an Unreal release. Moving them to 88-12 wasn't enough to actually sway people from going over to their camp. So Tim has flat out said that the reason why they buy exclusives is because that's the only way that they can compete. So they're saying that Steam has a well-established marketplace that a lot of gamers rely on. Not everybody. There's some people certainly don't like Steam as well, and that's a fair point. There's some very valid criticisms of Steam that are out there. But they have to use all the money that they've spent in Fortnite to try to prop up everything that they're doing in the Epic Game Store. Now, I want to clarify. I have the Epic Game Store launcher.
Mic check. Hi, Russ.
I have the Epic. I am actually in Epic Games. I do have it. I have some titles. There's only one game that I have that is actually purchased, which is Satisfactory. The rest of these are all games that have been offered for free. So I want to be very clear about about where. Yeah, I know. I'm in there. I don't know if you heard Tina speak up in my Discord or my chat, but she spoke up. We heard her. So again, I just want to set that tone. The fact that Epic Games is doing this type of thing, which they feel is so that they need to compete, because they don't have a compelling product that is compelling for consumers. There's no doubt that Epic Games is a very developer-friendly platform, right? They got a better revenue split. You know, they announced that, you know, when you actually kind of do things like game reviews, that sort of thing, that it's up to the developer if they want game reviews to be public, and you know how that's disseminated and how it's moderated, that sort of thing. Which is a very developer-friendly platform, but not a very consumer-friendly one. In one of the many conversations that I've been reading leading up to this, somebody mentioned, "Oh, well, just go to Metacritic." I'm sorry, I don't like Metacritic. I don't like going there. I like going to the actual game and reading information about the game, right? That's what I appreciate about Steam, is I can go and read those. I can go and read the user reviews and have a good understanding while I'm shopping for the game. You can see here, this is a pretty popular game, The Division 2. There is no reviews. There's an FAQ. You've got like the different types of divisions. I have no idea, without having to go out into a complete other platform in order to find any kind of opinion on it. Why aren't they? Yes, well, Blue Sea, because again, they're focused on the developers, not on the consumers, right? They want to make things as friendly for the developers as possible to release. And again, I'll say it's fair, right? It's good to have a company that likes to care about developers. I think developers do get shit on quite a bit. But at the same time, they look at their success of Fortnite and other things, and they're basically saying, "Hey, look at all this low effort stuff that we had to do to make a game that is basically allowing us to make fuck you money." But they think they don't have a shopping cart now, or they only just recently added one. So like their store here is nowhere near complete. Now, I wasn't a big fan when Origin launched. when EA kind of picked up the ball and went home, and they said, screw this, we're taking our games and making our own development or distribution platform, because they didn't like the revenue split with Steam. Not a fan of Origin. But I do have Origin. I have a few games because my brother and I like to play Battlefield together, so it's kind of I'm stuck with it. But when Origin launched, it was a more complete distribution platform than Epic Games was. And Epic Games isn't new to this, right? They've been doing releases for a while, right? So again, this kind of goes back to I want to be clear. My opinion is that Epic Games is not very consumer friendly. Now, there's also other parts to this as well. Like, for instance, the whole the fact that Epic Games was scanning your Steam activity completely. Oh, I'm Frosthair. I'm in the channel. I'm waiting for them to start talking. Yeah, I'm just waiting for. I heard the mic check from Tina, and I'm just waiting for people to start talking. I see Russ is unmuted his mic, but I'm waiting for him to start talking again. As soon as they start talking, I'm gonna shut up, and we're gonna listen to them and give them the space that they need to provide the information that they need. I will say that this has been a very tough day for them.
Hey everybody, welcome. Can you hear me okay?
I'm gonna turn Tina up here.
Yeah, is this working, Tina?
Yeah, I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay, I'll be right back in 1 minute.
Sounds good.
All right, so they're getting ready.
So those of you who might be new to AMAs, I received a question earlier in a DM, so I thought I'd just read. There's a text channel under the limited category called Dev Update AMA. It's currently closed, but you guys should be able to see it. So if you see this chat channel, it's a text channel. In that channel is where we will unlock it and open it for you to post your questions. But I just want to double check that you guys see the channel first.
Okay. I guess we have another minute or so.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna try to do my best to keep everything so you're not blowing people's eardrums off. I don't want to show the whole Discord.
I'll be right back. I'll just tell the people in the general voice channel to come down here.
As you can see, this is a very, very large list of people that are here. People certainly care a lot about MechWarrior 5. So I'm very interested to hear what they have to say, to hear the reasons for it. And he said we'll certainly talk a lot about it afterwards. I'll try to take some notes. I'll keep the game up in case Twitch staff comes in and wondering why we're not playing a game but listening about a game. Sometimes they can be a little anal about your stream title, but I want to make sure that,
there you go. Now
people are able to find it.
Okay. I guess we should probably just get into this. So, thanks for coming, everybody. I know it's been a pretty wild day for most everyone. If they've been kind of caught up in this news all day long, and it's been a very active day. Today is going to be quite a bit different than the usual AMAs. I'm not just going to immediately open it up to questions. I think that would be silly. What I want to do is, of course, take a while. I'm not sure if we're talking 10 minutes or 30 minutes, but take a while and just to explain everything, how things have gone here, especially in the last. Let's take a snapshot of time, kind of leading back even to previous MechCon, and just talk about the last 7, 8, 9 months, and just explain how everything kind of came about, and everything that maybe there's a lot of information that we can share that people aren't aware of. And once I've expressed all that, then of course we will open it up to questions. The questions, I would suggest you don't have pre-prepared questions because those probably won't get answered. In that, if it's something that we've talked about, throughout the AMA, or I expressed a whole bunch of things about that and essentially answered it, then I'm not just going to continue to answer those again. I'll look for questions that are obvious reactions to my message, like follow-up questions or things that I wasn't necessarily clear about or things that I missed. Those are probably the best things to answer here today. Okay, so um, first off, I want to start out by saying that last week, when the web guys accidentally put up an updated FAQ, I respond to that by saying that that was, really just uh, the new FAQ for the updated website, and it made no sense to have, stuff about the pre-order and Steam keys and stuff in that. So I want to be clear that that was, a completely truthful statement. I mean, last week at that time, there was no planned announcement date for announcing the Epic Game Store exclusivity. We'll get into the exactly when we signed that a minute ago, but it was signed last week, but we were not prepared, or we had not decided yet with between ourselves and Epic as to when we would be announcing this. But we knew we were going to have a newly updated website, and the team had been working on that for a long time, probably since MechCon, really, and maybe even prior. And they were basically preparing that, and then when they accidentally put it up, it's like, okay, well, it's true. Like, we were about to put up this updated website, and we certainly wouldn't have a bunch of stuff about the pre-order there and still. So that's kind of what that was about. Also, going back to previous to MechCon, we had an AMA here where people asked me if we were going to be an Epic Store exclusive and if we'd been talking to Epic, and I gave truthful answers at the time. And just to go over those, that we had been talking to. I had one conversation with Epic, someone that I'd known for a long time there, and we did have a brief conversation about it. But at the time, it didn't seem like maybe it was going to go anywhere. We talked about, we had our upcoming MechCon, and we at that MechCon we were going to announce our delay, or our new ship date rather, to September. And with that, he asked if we were going to be, shipping on our own portal, and not really knowing a lot about Epic Game Store deals at the time, I was just, answering truthfully, saying, yeah, we will. We're planning on it. In fact, planning on doing this, community pre-order in the new year, and we'll sell those, and we'll offer, various keys, but we're definitely planning on selling that through our own portal. So I think at the time, the representative from Epic was thinking, well, maybe this, isn't really a fit, for them, because we kind of had this history of selling things on our own portal, with MechWarrior Online and everything. So I think we both just kind of went our own way and wasn't really sure if that was going to be something that worked out. But I was truthful to you guys during that AMA that, I was supportive in many ways of what Epic was doing, like what I knew about it at the time, certainly from a developer's perspective. And I admit that, I mean, that's who I am. I'm a developer, and I've owned this company for 20 years. So I'll admit full-heartedly, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, for me to put myself inside of, just like a pure consumer's shoes. I am what I am. But I was truthful saying that from a developer's perspective, the disrupting of the internet that they were doing was, or not the internet, but of this market, was something that I believed in. That, the 12% fee for developers was something that's, well, I mean, compare that to the 30, it's really self-explanatory, and it was something that I said, I don't have a problem with it, and just kind of left it at that. So that's where everything was, kind of previous to, um, previous to MechCon, and this particular AMA, I guess, would have been earlier this year when we talked about that, maybe in the first quarter sometime when we had that discussion. So that's where things stood, and it wasn't until sometime in April, maybe near the very end of April, that I got back in touch with the representative from Epic, and we started talking about it again. And I started to learn a lot more about the types of deals that they were offering, and I started to learn a lot more about the Epic Store. And we actually didn't get this deal done with Epic until um, the last couple of days of April. So we were just ending the community pre-order. It's like, okay, well, this is just coming together. The community the community pre-order is just finishing. And so instead of launching that updated MechWarrior site, which we'd planned on, we held on to that and said, well, let's hold on to that, and we need to figure out how we're going to announce these things. And so it just came together at the end of April, and then of course, by the time we got things really settled with them, then it was E3, and Epic had a summer studio closure, and by the time everyone got back around, it's summer break, and then we were trying to figure out exactly when we do these announcements. So, but I think the most important thing I can possibly say here tonight is I think there's a lot of misconception out there and a lot of misinformation that going to the Epic Game Store is some type of short-sighted decision, just some sort of like quick, easy money grab type situation that doesn't think of the product or the company or the game in long-term successful ways. Um, I can assure you that that is 100% false from my perspective. In fact, after I've talked and learned and researched and also gotten lots of valuable information, including sales data and whatnot from Epic, um, I started to realize that you know this is not a short-sighted decision. Like, this was actually the better decision for the game, for giving it a better chance of being successful, a better chance of being a hit game. And some of those reasons are, first off, discoverability. I really believe in the increased level of exposure and discoverability that the game would get from going to the Epic Game Store. We've been on Steam for a number of years with MWO, and no one at Piranha Games has a problem with the Steam platform. It's a great platform. It's very mature. It's very robust. It's great. And the guys that I know over there, they're awesome. They treated us really well, and they were even really respectful with the announcement here today and everything. So it's a great platform, and we've been using it. But the discoverability on there is very, very difficult. MechWarrior Online has it's, you fall off the front page within moments essentially, and it's really hard. And there's plenty of articles out there now, and kind of a growing sentiment among smaller developers that with 150 games being released a week or something like that, that it's really extremely difficult to know if your game is getting seen by players. So with the Epic Game Store, yeah, the store is much earlier. It's not as well featured, and they're working on it. But a benefit is that there's only about a game a week going onto the store. So someone like us with a game like MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, even with a name like MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, which has a little bit of history to it, is going to disappear off that front page of Steam in no time. But with the Epic Game Store, it's going to sit there front and center for a very long time. I don't know how long exactly, weeks and weeks, perhaps months and months. And we have actual sales data from products that went on there that have actually done better than, say, projected sales had they been on Steam. In fact, some of them have done, far more than previous iterations did on Steam. So the games that are going there are not saying, okay, great, we'll take this support and this money and these deals from Epic, but we're just accepting the fact that the game is going to be less successful. If that was the case, I never would have done the deal with Epic. I firmly believe that My expectation for sales for MechWarrior 5 are to be just as high or higher than if I'd gone on Steam. And if I didn't feel that way, we wouldn't have done the Epic Game Store deal. Now, if you take that and you can, disagree with me, but that's the way I feel. And that's the way I believe that's true. And then if I move along to the deal terms, then it just becomes so powerful, right? First off, obviously the rate, 12%, and that includes the Unreal Engine. With Steam, it's obviously 30% plus there's 5% for the engine, for the Unreal Engine. So you're comparing 12% to 35%. That's a third of the deductions. Um, to give you some examples or what that means, if you had a 1,000,000 unit seller, it's going to equate to like an additional $9 million in profits for the studio. And a 750,000 seller in the Epic Store would be the equivalent of a 1,000,000 unit seller on Steam. And so if I still can match the amount of sales like I believe I can, or surpass the unit sales on the Epic Game Store that I'd get on Steam, it's significantly better for us as a studio. And so we can talk about smaller numbers, like what the recoup number is and those things, and we get there sooner. So um, in a situation where the product is not a big hit, it's much more, it's a lot safer. We get to a recoup point a lot quicker. And even a situation where we have a very successful product, obviously the profits are significantly larger. And remember, I don't expect everyone to care about Piranha Games profits or anything, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been building this company for 20 years, and after 20 years, we have a product like the size and scope of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries that we've been able to self-fund and take to market on our own. We built to this point for 20 years, so this is everything for us. This is our big moment after 20 years. So you can bet we're going to make the decision that says this is going to be more successful. The product is going to sell more. It's going to be bigger if we go to this other store. Then there's other benefits. Piranha Games self-funding, as I mentioned, and when we announced our release date at Games or at MechCon for being a September release, we, I said a few things at the time, like, unless some big game, I think I used the example of Red Dead Redemption PC, coming out on that day, then we'd probably shift. So like the FAQ said, as we got closer and closer to that ship date, we saw Gears 5 is shipping then. Borderlands 3 was shipping like 3 days later. There was a number of big games coming out, so we were already thinking, all right, we should probably push this a little later into the fall, trying to find a bit of a better hole. So then we're pushing the development time out even further from September. So our small company is becoming, more and more stressed to finish this big game and get it on the market, and to find both the time and money and everything to not only finish the game with an even further extended development time, but to try to get all of our localization done and paid for, and all the marketing that we'd like to do for the game. So I would say we were definitely heading to a point where we would be hard pressed to just get a good English version game out on the market without very much lead marketing. And so the Epic Game Store deal also allowed us to say, okay, this takes off a lot of pressure. We can push it to our little, favorite early December, honey hole that we've been having the last 4 years. We can comfortably go there. And then that will allow us to not only comfortably develop the game there, but even make additional hires to make sure that we're really coming in hard for that December release. And on top of that, we've absolutely confirmed that we are going to ship the game not only in English, but it's going to come out in German, French, and Russian. So we're committed to that now. That's a confirmation of those other 3 languages. And also, we're committed to a significant marketing effort. So that's something that we're going to be, putting the final touches on a plan now as we move from here on to the release window. Is we feel really great now because we actually have a marketing budget, and it's not small. So these things together with the extra development time, the localization of the additional languages, and the marketing, it became really clear that this was the right decision. Like, we had to make this call, and obviously we knew what we'd be getting into. I mean, first off, we'd been making MechWarrior Online for the last 8 years. It's been 7 years since open beta. We've been talking and managing the community, and we've understood moments of community management where we did something crappy or blew it, and we had blow ups, and we had to learn. We had to learn a lot over the years, and so also that in conjunction with listening to what had been happening in the industry with other Epic Game Stores exclusives, we obviously knew what we'd be stepping into, and that would be challenging, and that would be not fun, and we'd rather not have to step into a situation like that. But we're staring at the facts, and the facts tell us we have to be willing to step into this uncomfortable situation because it's the best decision for the game, not just for the studio but for the game. We firmly believe that the game has a much better chance of being a successful product, both in the quality and in the size of its sales and success rate. So with that since we knew we were stepping into this kind of situation, we knew that we'd have to right away. We decided, okay, we're gonna do full refunds. We're not gonna worry about the MWO content. We're not gonna try to claw anything back there. Sure, you lose the MechWarrior 5 key and beta and the MechWarrior 5 bits and pieces if you request the refund, but the MWO content, it's yours. So if it was the big package, we had $100 worth of MC and all the other mechs and cockpit items, just like keep that. We really appreciate it. And you guys, when the pre-order happened, you were there, you pre-ordered, you supported us. And yeah, at the time said it was going to be a Steam key. So absolutely, now that it's not a Steam key, you get a refund, no questions asked. Keep the MWO content, and and if you decide to buy later or something, great. If you don't, that's totally up to you. So there's certainly nothing about this that's like trying to convince you as consumers that you should see it our way, or that you should not get a refund or something. By all means, whatever you feel after tonight, if you haven't already, but if you want to after tonight, that's great. That's fine. Of course, we'd rather you keep it. We want you to stay with us. We appreciate you guys' support over all the years. Another thing I should mention is that no, Epic is not paying for the refunds. Someone linked something to me because there was the announcement, I believe, after the Shenmue thing that Epic would pay for the refunds for crowdfunded games, but it's not something I even talked to them about because we're not a crowdfunded game. We've been developing the game for years before we did the pre-order. So no, we're Piranha Games is handling all the refunds ourselves, and all that money's coming out of our pocket to go back to you guys. So, I mean, I never really announced a lot about the pre-order program before. How many units? A lot of people were, curious, and it's not something I probably would have been discussing. But since we're in this moment now, where people are asking for some refunds and such, I think I can give out a little bit of information just to be more transparent about the pre-order itself. So the pre-order did about 20,000 pre-orders. Which was pretty great. I mean, comparison-wise to MWO's like Founders Program, which is very different. It's a much more of a, well, it wasn't pre-order. It's very different. But that had done, like, as you guys might remember, in about the same amount of time, it did like over $5 million, about 70,000-ish, I think. Pre-orders, I guess you'd call it, units sold. But it was a very different time, right? That was back in 2012. This was previous to Star Citizen, kind of taking that crown and going crazy with that stuff. And at the time, it was just a very different market, brand new, really, for like this type of pre-orders. And that's changed drastically in the last, 6-7 years. So getting 20,000 pre-orders when we did, we actually felt pretty good about that. Like, that was a pretty strong pre-order. Again, thank you for your support. So far, before I came up to this AMA, we received about 700 requests for refunds that everyone was the customer support was actively working on, actively taking care of them as fast as they can. So it gives you a bit of an idea. 20,000, and so far 700, and there'll be more because it's just the first day. So, but our aspirations for the game, we want to sell 1 million units. I mean, past MechWarrior games have. We think if we hit the quality level that we want, that's our goal. And I happen to know what other games have sold and what say BattleTech has sold and various things because I have some of that information. So I mean I base these hopes on actual things, you know, on actual past sales of MechWarrior games and other products. So I still think that's our goal. That's something we're going to be pushing for. But the bottom line is just shipping a good game. I think we believe in where we're going on the Epic Game Store, both for the deal terms, but also for the um, discoverability. And I think there's if we can ship the product the quality level we want, then we have a good chance at achieving that. So I guess bringing it back around, I'm obviously just I don't want to lose sight, as disappointed as some people might be about both having an extra 3 months of delay or that you're not going to be able to play the game on Steam. You know, for us, we have to stay 100% focused on shipping the best game we possibly can. It's the first numbered series MechWarrior game in 17 years, and that's all we can focus on now between here. You know, after today, I'll have another AMA session in the morning. We'll continue to process any refunds that people want, but we just got to stay focused after that. And we got to stay focused on just shipping a great game. So, with that, I think that's about all I had kind of prepared to talk about. We can go to some questions for a while. Maybe we'll take questions for, well, as long as almost 38 minutes until the hour if we want to go that long. But again, the questions, if it's just simple questions like, why would you do this? That's dumb. Then I've already answered why we did it. So I'd rather the questions be more along the lines of follow-up questions, details that I missed, other things you're wondering about that are pertinent, and I'll try to take as many of those as possible. Just make sure the questions are respectful. I don't want anyone to get tossed or banned when we're throw it up for questions. So let's go ahead and do that, Tina.
All right. The channel's open. It is on a 2-minute cooldown, or slow mode, but it's going quickly still.
Raining Fire, with the extra dev time, can we please get multiple HUD design color choice? Sorry, everything's auto scrolling when more questions come in. Raining Fire, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to say that we're going to get that for you. We have been putting some extra development time into a new HUD layout that works better for if you decide to play in third person, which is quite exciting in a single player game. I have to say, when you're running through buildings and everything, it definitely opened up the need to shift some things. And so I've been talking to the guys about maybe putting an option in the menu so that you can choose that or the classic one. So you've been talking about the whole time. I know the HUD and the color choices. I think I brought this up to the guys, and a lot of guys have the opinion that if it's something that's really low hanging fruit like that, there's even a desire to kind of leave it up to the mod community. Which kind of reminds me, I should talk about those things. I know there's going to be questions about that for sure, so I'll talk about it when it comes up. But a lot of people feel, Raining Fire, that these are the type of things we should leave there as low hanging fruit for the mod community. Okay, I will read this one, Blanca. Thanks for the question. I think it's worded respectfully. It says, "Thank you for explaining your position, Ross. I understand you did it or why you did it, but as a fan and backer, it feels like we're not valued as much as your bottom line. How are you planning on winning back the community? Thanks and good luck with everything." So thanks for that. And I kind of explained this, but I think I want to make this point again. I like the question, and that is that I think I made it clear that this decision isn't just about the bottom line. It is. We want to be as successful as possible. You guys know we don't own the MechWarrior brand. I hope we get this game out. I hope we can ship some DLC for it. I hope we can maybe even put it on a Xbox console or something. And I hope one day we'll be able to continue to work with the brand. But we don't know if we can, right? So of course we have to be making sure that we're looking at the bottom line while we have it. But as I explained, I truly believe that this is the best choice for the customers, because you guys, I mean, last week I got absolutely destroyed on Twitter about the lack of marketing that was going on for MechWarrior 5. And all that mattered, because everyone was still aware of the September 10th release, of course. And all that mattered to a lot of those people was like, they want to see marketing. They want to see the game be successful. They want to see the game get to as many people as possible. And that MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries will be a very successful game because of it. And that will lead to other MechWarrior titles in the future. And people, like, whether it's Piranha or whether it's Microsoft, something says, look at that. That did really well. Let's make another one. I truly believe going to the Epic Store, for all the reasons I cited, gives it a better chance to be successful like that. So it's a better chance for there to be future games, and that it is the best choice for you, the customers, as well. I mean, putting Steam aside and saying, I only want to play on Steam or I don't want to play on the Epic Game Store, I understand there's a debate there. But for the game itself, as far as having it be successful so there can be future products, I do believe we're making the best choice for that reason. Yeah, there's some long ones there that Tina's dropped out. I think that those. I think I've answered those a couple times. Let's see. Okay, so Tina's check marked that one. I answered that a minute ago. I mean, one thing I've learned over 8 years of doing MechWarrior Online, I can tell you guys, a lot of times I can tell the community like the truthful answer, and a lot of times it won't be. It just won't be believed. So I'll read the question and I'll answer it again though. If you're planning on working with Epic since MechCon, why did you lie to us and tell us not to worry? I was not planning on working with Epic since MechCon. I had one conversation with Epic previous to MechCon. I want to say like November. Nothing much came of it. In fact, it kind of felt like it wasn't a fit, and we weren't really going to be doing an Epic deal. And it wasn't until April those conversations picked back up again. That's the truth. Hydraden. Why does this keep scrolling, Tina? It's talking about RTX, I believe, and 2060. So yeah, I mean, I'll give a little bit of information just kind of in general on performance. We're certainly committed to making sure that we have a really well-performing game. MechWarrior Online was always frustrating for us because we can't entirely blame it on CryEngine. Like, CryEngine was a very CPU-starved engine, but we also made some choices, I think, with the way that we built our mechs and stuff, that we were very CPU intensive as well, kind of almost going against maybe the way we should have gone based on what the engine does well. The HUD was also that way too, using Flash. So our performance was, in some ways, we were kind of stuck with not being able to get where we wanted to be with performance. So we actually spent several engineers and some other artists spent pretty much a full 2 months working nothing on optimizations. And we still have a ways to go here, so nothing here is final. But I've mentioned in the past, I had this Alienware 1070 laptop, and I was like playing the game on that when I was answering people's questions from a while ago on how the game performed. That has a 1070 in it with a good i7 processor. It's a pretty good machine. It's definitely not a low spec machine or anything, but it's certainly not a big desktop with a 2080 either. So it's middle high. Most of the time I'm playing 60 to 80 FPS on that thing with everything on max settings. So take that for what you will. There's still ways to go here, of course. And I think in our optimization, we went a little over aggressive on a few things with the dial back a bit, but then there's other areas we can still go back to and get more out of. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good about performance of the game. We just hired a brand new lighting artist a month or so ago, maybe not quite that long ago. Gonna really focus on lighting across the whole game, as well as making sure that we're in good shape for like the RTX stuff. Certainly the RTX, we're mostly committed to the hangar and making the hangar like a really incredible RTX experience if you happen to have one of those cards. So that's still the plan. So yeah, things are looking good. Performance is looking good. Okay, so when Metro Exodus went Epic exclusive, those who had pre-ordered were still given a Steam key. Is PG honoring this community support by delivering the Steam keys as promised in FAQ at the time of purchase? If not, explain why. So we're not able to, because something changed. There's quite a bit of difference between us and the Metro Exodus situation. Number one, when Metro Exodus did that, they were actually doing pre-orders on Steam, like actually selling them right on Steam. And also, besides that, since that game came out, Steam or Valve Steam had changed their policy to say if it's not actively for sale on Steam, then you can't put people on Steam. So that's things have changed since then, and it's just not possible. It's not allowed by Steam. So no, we're not able to give you a Steam key. You get an Epic key instead, or you can ask for a refund. I did get a couple interesting comments from a few people saying, "What if I just chill out for a year? Then can I get the Steam key?" And honestly, I hadn't even thought of that. I didn't think anyone would be thinking they'd do that. So I don't even know if that's possible. I could talk to the team and the guys at Epic or something to see if that's something that we can, if that's worth doing that. It's so far out, I'd almost just suggest get a refund. And if that's the way you feel, get a refund. And then when the game comes out on Steam, you can buy it then. And that'd be great. But that's all I can say about that for now. Okay, so co-op questions, good question. I did state that it was going to work the same way as we previously communicated, that you basically use the Steam friends list to just invite your friends into a co-op match. So the person who does the inviting is the host. So that's the way it works. So we use the Epic friends list the same way that we would have used Steam friends list. So when the year is up and we do go to other platforms like Steam or maybe GOG or these other platforms, then it would work in the same way. It would be you'd use the Steam friends list or the GOG friends list. So question about crossplay comes up. I can't promise crossplay support. That's something we'd certainly look at. It's becoming more and more popular, and it's something that even Epic is very supportive of when you are on multiple platforms. So I don't know about crossplay for sure, but when the time comes, it goes on the other platforms. You would use the friends list of that platform. Draggle Dawn. I think first and foremost, can we get a breakdown about how this recent announcement will change what content we own now? Well, I mean, I think that's all clear in the FAQ, isn't it? If you choose to keep your pre-order, then you get everything that you pre-ordered. I mean, the only difference is you get a Epic key instead of a Steam key, but you get the same DLC and the same content and the same closed beta access and everything that you would have got with Steam. And if you do get a refund, then you lose the MechWarrior 5 content, like we said, but you get to keep all the MechWarrior Online content. So I think that answers that. Army of One. There's an old name from way back. Recognize it from days of MWO. Saddened by the news, but I understand the business decision. I was going to ask about how a single platform release increases discoveries in multi-platform release, but you explained your position in this. Okay. My question is, how would you determine the potential sales loss or gain from EGS versus Steam or GOG versus sales over all three platforms concurrently? And he appreciates the full refunds. You're welcome. I mean, we've tried to be really generous in that way for quite a while now, both when we did the pre-order and what you got, and in turn here what you get if you ask for a refund. Yeah, I mean it's a really good question. Obviously, if I'm not selling the game on Steam and GOG, there's no way for me to to just try to guess at what I would have sold on those platforms. All I can go by is how other games have been performing on the Epic Game Store over the last 6 months, what those games did on previous iterations on Steam, what other games that are similar to those games are doing on Steam, and also the Epic game exclusives that are hitting the Epic Game Store between now and when MechWarrior is going to release. Games like Borderlands 3, which should certainly bring a significant amount of more players to the Epic Game Store. So I like the question. I think it's determined mostly just by on looking at how well games have been performing on the Epic Game Store. You can look at a game and say, "Oh wow, Metro Exodus sold as many as the last two Metro games did combined on Steam." So that's not a perfect thing to look at, because maybe Metro Exodus is a lot better than those previous games, but it does show that they're performing exceptionally well. I think the DayZ it sold. What was the announcement? It was like 250,000 copies in like the first like week or something. So those are excellent sales numbers. I mean, those are Steam level sales numbers.
I think you meant Days Gone.
Sorry, Matt, was that you?
Yeah, that was me. Days Gone, I think you meant, not Daisy.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. I have to look at the store again, but maybe I missed. Once a peer-to-peer connection is established for co-op, do we still need to be logged into Epic to maintain that connection? That's a great question. I'm gonna need to get a follow-up on that, and maybe we can put that in here for you guys. I want to say I don't think so, but I could be way wrong on that because it would. I mean, if you look at MechCon, we weren't on any platform, right? I mean, it was just old school, like connecting via LAN, and that's totally possible with this game. Like, in fact, um, I don't think anyone, Piranha or Epic, would care, to be honest, about this. That Nima, an internal engineer, was even saying that you know, you could probably um, there's some people out there that have enough kind of old school smarts around like LAN systems and stuff that if they know the IP address of their friends and stuff, they can probably connect with each other over the internet using uh, nothing but like weird little batch files and stuff like that. So, I mean, first off, it's a single player game. So if you buy the game through the Epic Game Store and download it, once it's downloaded, you can shut down the Epic Game Store and like double click on the executable. Just play the game. There's no always online connectivity needed or anything like that. And then for the for co-op, you'd use your friends list to connect to each other. But I need to get some follow up on this. But I don't think there's anything stopping people from connecting kind of like old school LAN style with their friends, to be honest. So those are great questions, and it brings up some really interesting thoughts that I hadn't had in a while, and not since like MechCon. So that's cool, and we should get some follow up information on that. Once it settles and we ship Mech 5, would we be interested in collaborating with Microsoft to release the old MechWarrior, Mercenaries games? Um, let's see, what's the rest of it? Yeah, I have talked to the guys at GOG about that. I know that there's super tons of interest in those old games. First off, you guys know how much I love the brand. Truly, like I'm not truly. A lot of people. I got lots of tweets today, just like basically, why would you bury the brand and kill it and stuff? Like, honestly, I feel like I'm doing the opposite, and I don't need to go over that again. I feel like I'm doing the opposite of that, but um, I'd love to continue to work with it. I think you guys know that. I don't know if that'd be the case or not, and I think with the older games, it's complicated because 1 and all the 2s were Activision. I think those are like just not going to happen. Like it would take like a 3-way conversation between like Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft, and like someone like us to do it or whatever. I think that's unlikely. I think 3 and 4 though Microsoft developed, and I'm not sure about the Mech Manners. Were they just published for the second one? So that gets complicated. So I think it's probably a little low on the likelihood scale, but yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be interested. Oh, since it's been pushed back again, can we ship a demo or something? Been waiting a long time. I know. I mean, trust me on this. We've been developing the game. By the time this ships, we've been working on it for 4 years. That's insane. And it hasn't been the full team the whole time, of course. It started out with a very small team in early 2016. But in that year, maybe it was 12 to 15 to get that initial MechCon announcement out. And then it grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and just like full team for the last couple of years. But when it ships, I'm going to average it all out, but it's definitely a big development cycle. It's probably at least 2.5 to 3 years with a full fledged team on it. So no, but I think we got to stay focused. We got to ship a great game. So November 5th is as soon as I can get something into your hands. That'll be pretty much an instant action, as I've described a few times before. Because of reviewers and everything, you're not going to be playing the campaign, but the instant action manager is pretty rad. I'll tell you, I have a lot of fun. I played missions for 20 minutes, and it's really turning into a really unique and special experience. And I think that there's significant amount of people out there that are just going to say, yeah, the campaign was cool, but they're going to find hundreds of hours of enjoyment of just playing the instant action manager with their buddies. So I'm saying that the closed beta will be very focused, small and focused on the instant action manager, but there's still going to be a lot there for you to play. I'm going to skip over the long one real quick, not because it's bad. I just saw this short one here. Because why did you decide to split the customer base by going exclusive instead of releasing on all platforms? Well, I've explained the reasons for going to the Epic Game Store, so I'm not going to say those again. But it wasn't an option. Just so everyone knows, maybe not everyone knows out there that it's not an option at the moment to do, say, Steam and the Epic Store. The types of deals that Epic's doing are exclusives, and I understand why they're doing it, because they're really disrupting things at the moment. I mean, it's 30% versus 12, and Steam is extremely well established. So it's not, and I'll let them answer for themselves. I'm not here to answer a lot of Epic questions and things. They've explained these things. I think you can go out there and find all this stuff, but it's not possible for me to have released it on both platforms. Yeah, the long one there, I think, honestly, I think we've answered that stuff. A lot of stuff in there about, why would we change our mind? Why would we do this? But I think I've answered those best I can. I think, David, we've answered this. Like, EGS requires constant internet connection. Will MechWarrior be subject to the same rule? I don't think so. It's in the FAQ that was viewed by Epic as well and approved by them. Like, it clearly says in there that once it's downloaded, you don't need a connection anymore. It's a single player game. You wouldn't need to be connected. Co-op obviously is different if you're connecting via your friends list on the Epic Game Store, but potentially there's ways around that as well. You need to have the internet, of course, to play co-op, but we're not using any matchmaking service from the Epic Game Store. We're just using an invite system. And the invite system essentially just, for our game, because it's simple peer-to-peer connection, just says, here's this guy's IP, right? And it gives a little bit of information to connect them. So there's very little internet need, for MechWarrior 5. Epic Store does not support gifting. Yeah, there's a lot of features they don't have yet. And they have a roadmap, and their roadmap can slip. I understand that. So I can't speak to bunches and bunches of features, but there was of specific features that we needed for our game, and that is, of course, a friends list for the invite system for co-op. We needed the ability to provide the DLC content to our players who did the pre-order, and we needed the ability for us to have a closed beta, and we also needed the ability, what was I going to say? Oh, for players to mod. So we had that conversation with them really specifically about those features. And we came to a place where we realized that we would have the functionality we needed to ship the game and to deliver that functionality to our players. So modding, I guess I'll jump on that right now. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different than we were on the Steam, and meaning that we don't have something like Steamworks day one, but we will have modding. And the way this is going to work is we're going to release the editor, when the game releases. So all the guys that are planning on making mods that kind of really know what they're doing, like the developer type guys, they're going to grab the editor, they're going to grab all the content they need, and they're going to be able to get started right away. There's really no hang up for them. That's kind of how it would be for them anyhow. They're out there making mods. So it's the actual end user aspect of mod creation where you actually share your mods with more just players, guys that don't know how to make mods, but they want to play them. That part is where we integrate basically Epic's version of Steamworks that's coming online, and it's really close. I'm just gonna, like, their roadmap says what it says, but it was right in and around the end of the year, like right in and around our ship date. So we're just playing conservative and saying, well, maybe it's going to be a little bit into the new year. So in very early 2020, it seems to be a kind of our safe estimate, and that if that happens, then it just gives our mod makers like a little bit of time, maybe a couple months, to get some sweet mods up and running. And of course, there'll be ways on the internet to share those with each other. It's just not as user friendly, but once that system's integrated, then then you'll have the kind of ease of just like downloading mods and stuff like that. Rabbit Foe, I think I answered that. It might be a ridiculously smaller penetration like the Epic Game Store, but I mean, I don't want to get into a big Steam Epic debate here, but there might be, I don't even know how many millions of people on Steam right now, but it's busy over there. It's cluttered over there. It's difficult to get seen over there. So there could be 7 billion people on the Steam store, but if they can't see your game, it really doesn't matter. So I think that the amount of eyeballs on our game from PC gamers that want to play a game like MechWarrior 5 is actually bigger and greater on the Epic Game Store. That's what I feel. That's why we made the decision. People can disagree, and we'll see. You know, history's going to say if I'm right or wrong. But obviously, I've chosen to, believe in that, and I think that's the way it's going to go. Okay, answer the mod support one. I actually am going to answer this not so Deadpool thing that Tina's got the exclamation mark there for. It says, was it that bad for the company financially that this move was required? No, it really wasn't. And in fact, there was an article from Sarna, last week, the one that was, guesstimating that we were going to go to the Epic Game Store. And obviously they were right. And there was nothing wrong with the article except one thing that kind of said, like, something on the lines of, we already know that Piranha was in like super dire financial straits because they stopped making mech packs. Well, that doesn't really make sense, does it? I mean, people stop shipping product or making product and developing product and shipping it, not because they can't afford to make it, but because if the products they're putting on the market are no longer make enough money to justify their development, and there's no return on the investment. And sometimes you can we kind of said, well, we're going to continue to do this for a while, even though it didn't really make a lot of sense ROI wise, just to kind of continue to support, MechWarrior Online and build it up and, just invest. But there comes a point where you're saying, okay, this doesn't make sense anymore. Plus we need resources on MechWarrior 5, so let's not make any more bad decisions about, stuff that isn't making any money, and let's make sure that we put resources on MechWarrior 5 to get the game done, make it a great game. So it really doesn't, because the fact that we stopped making mech packs for MWO has really nothing to do with the finances of the company. So I let on a little bit. Like, we weren't just swimming. We weren't just be like, oh, this is great. You know what? In fact, it's busy around September. Let's just push it to later. And no, I mean, it was like, well, geez, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to like put tons of money into marketing right now. But things weren't not like desperately out there looking for money or anything. So the reason we took the Epic Game Store deal was for the reasons I've already stated, because I think it's the best thing for the game. And the deal terms of the Epic deal really help. Like in the way that I expressed already. It makes it clear. It says, okay, great, let's push it to December. Let's make a great game. You know what? Let's hire a new narrative designer to make sure this story is super tight. Let's get a new lighting artist. Let's get another level designer. Make sure our campaign missions are awesome. These are all things we did. And then we said, let's lock in, French, German, and Russian. Let's make sure we're committed on a legitimate, marketing campaign. So it helped a lot. But it wasn't like we didn't make certain decisions for financial reasons either. Do you know that Borderlands 3 is releasing 3 days after MechWarrior 5, and it will be a much bigger release outshadowing MechWarrior 5? I do know that. That's why we pushed the release date to December 10th. And yeah, I'm very excited about Borderlands 3. I think it's a great game. Definitely, when I saw it, it's like, oh my god, 3 days after us. I played Borderlands 1 a ton. I didn't get to play Borderlands 2, but actually Piranha worked on Borderlands 2, and we were working with Gearbox in the day. Just a little bit of artwork, nothing big. Big game. Really excited about it. Absolutely, it's gonna be huge. Big reason why we were, before the Epic Game Store deal was even done, or like before we were even talking about it, we were like already considering like, okay, we have to push a little later into the fall. Uncle Toddy, the one and only question that matters: why should we not refund? Well, I feel like I've stated that. but I'll repeat a little bit. I think it's the best. It's going to get you. I mean, whether you refund or not, I suppose this is going to happen because we're committed and we're going down this path. But the reason that we made the deal was so that we could make the best MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries game possible, localize it to get it in many people's hands as possible, market it with significant marketing dollars, all in all to just ship the best MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries game we possibly could. And even though we knew we'd be stepping into the furnace and dealing with a very uncomfortable situation around Epic Game Store exclusivity, we still made that choice because it was the best choice for both the company and the game. And that's just sometimes that's what I mean. I think that's our reputation at Piranha. Like we haven't done everything right. We've made some blunders, but we'll always make a decision that's best for the game and the studio, no matter what we think if we're gonna stir up trouble or not. That's we don't like it. I don't want it, but it was the right call for the game. So you can take that explanation and agree with it or not agree with it. And I guess that'd be the reason why you wouldn't get a refund is because you'd say, if you believe me at all, you say they made the right call for the game, no matter the hard decision that it was. Knight Captain Andrew, why is December more attractive in that regard? Well, when we chose September, I thought maybe it'd be a lot less busy. Last year, it seemed to be. There was like a Tomb Raider game around the 17th of September, and there were some other ones. You go back and look, but from a PC game perspective, it looked to me like maybe early September would be a pretty sweet spot to land, right after like PAX West and stuff. And this year, it just so happened that some games that are pretty big in the PC world, like Borderlands 3, and then also even, although Gears 5 is primarily console, there were some games that were just right there, right in our little spot. We thought maybe it would be a little clearer. So I think early December, traditionally has been. There's always been some games like you see Smash Bros from Nintendo and stuff like that. So there's going to be some, but I think also we've kind of identified where all the big games are going now, right? This fall, like we know where Gears is, we know where Borderlands 3 is, we know where all the the general Call of Duties and various things, and we know where the new Star Wars game is coming out November 15th. There could be some more announcements and some more things come to light, but at this point we kind of know where everything's landing, and so our little early December honey holes, turns out to be our best spot. Has our pre-order information, login data, and user information already been shared with Epic? No, it has not. No one has requested it. I'm sure no one will request it. Like Epic doesn't care about your data. We have it, along with MechWarrior Online, and all they care about is we'll get keys from them just like we would have got keys from Steam, and we will send you those keys through your profile, just like we would have anyhow. I don't see a situation where we'd ever have to share that information because we'll just send you the key, and then you'll go to Epic Game Store if you choose to keep it. Of course, I'm saying, then of course you'll sign up with Epic, but then you'll be signing up, and they'll have that data, of course, but they won't have the data you use on the MechWarrior 5 website. That's different. I mentioned mod support there. There will be the mod support at launch. There'll be the editor and everything. People will be working away. The very user friendly aspects will be lagging just a little bit.
Hey, Russ.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you cut out. Sorry.
Oh, I think I was done that question. Maybe I didn't sound like it, and I started reading other questions. I'm going to answer this. Zentiz. So everything you did was just to make better sales and make more money for yourselves. That's all I've heard this whole time. Without caring about your consumers, you won't make a lot of sales. Is that really what you got from everything I've said since it started, Zentiz? Because that's not what I said. I feel like I said a lot of things that were very different. Is the exclusivity worth the tremendous and justified amount of...
trying not to cut in here, but it looks like Discord disconnected and then
Still mad at me.
reconnected.
But we're trying to sell 1 million units here, right? And there's 20,000 pre-order customers that are very important to us, and 700 of them have asked for refunds. And
So just once again, the audio drops is Discord dropping.
why not
in and out.
GOG? Well, I mean, it's a 12-month exclusive. So
Russ is going on
let's
and
put
not
that out there. I had one
listening.
piece of advice from someone that we should be
I'm not muted. I keep on having that unchecked. Yeah, Discord is crashing and like it is. Oops. Here, you can see like all the activity going on right now of people trying to like get reconnected into the Discord. It is insane. Keep in mind, this is a massive list of people. Just an utter massive list of people. Yeah, so we'll give it a moment. We'll let them sort it out. So this is where we kind of fell out at question 22. Is the exclusivity worth the vitriol? Is kind of my own. I'll say my own paraphrase of the question. I mean, I keep mine. I'm trying to keep where I paraphrase the question. I am trying to be fair and generous to the question that's being typed. It's just shorthand to try to make sure I'm able to type in as much as I can. But like I mentioned, right now the Discord is certainly dying. I have never
Here?
Can
seen.
you hear me, Sina?
Yeah, no, I can't. I changed the server location to see if that fixes. The server location that we were on seems to have...
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think it was. I kept like trying to. I had this router which is like normal, and then like the the 5.01 or whatever, and I was like screwing around thinking it was me, but I think it wasn't me.
Yeah, no, everybody was getting kicked out of voice, or just the connection was cutting out. It was just the location that we had this Discord channel set up to. But I changed it to US Central, and this seems pretty stable so far.
Okay, so let's take a few more just because we kind of blew a few minutes there.
Right.
Okay, I don't know. I don't even know where I was. I'm just gonna. Where are we? God, there's so many. Show up again in the morning if you feel like you really had a question need to get answered. We're not going to get to anywhere close to all these, obviously.
You can just jump through.
Maybe because we disconnected, none of the little symbols are there anymore. I don't see like.
Oh, there should be a few.
Okay.
It's probably just at the very top. There's a lot.
Any odds of the beta being longer than just a month? Ooh, honestly, not sure if it'll be a full month. I thought the FAQ said something a little shorter than that. I don't know how long it's going to be, but a month would be pretty much definitely the longest it would be, because November 5th, that basically takes you to the launch date. So more information we get. Any word in MechCon this year happening or not? Boy, let's save that for another thing. It's a bit of a topic, but yeah, I don't want to take up the time on this right now for MechCon. Let's see. Do you anticipate adding other add-on skins, etc., to the Epic Store? Well, I kind of anticipate that. There's nothing planned yet, but eventually they're going to do the pre-order there and stuff, and obviously then sell the game. And I don't know. I guess it'd be nice to come up with something, right? So at this point, we don't know yet, but it's something we'd like to do. Pre-orders were not accepted past April. Actually, they ended April 30th. So Prana did. Yeah, I actually said that. I think it was like maybe 3 days crossover when the Epic deal was kind of known and the pre-orders were still happening. So when there's 3 days left, you just close it out. You don't, throw a hand grenade at it, because you have to be ready to announce these things. This isn't just up to us at that point. So there was a couple days crossover. Do you think you can get people to migrate the population base of Steam? I would only download Epic for MechWarrior 5. Well, thank you for that, for saying you do it for MechWarrior 5. I'm not sure we need to get any population to really migrate. We just need to get, a lot of people to agree to play MechWarrior 5 and to come buy the game. I don't know about the migrating thing. They'll play them both. Wonder if MechWarrior 5 is still being worked on. Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, no, it's definitely being worked on. Will development and work still being done on MechWarrior 5 gameplay-wise throughout the pushback release date? Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're going to be taking advantage of every last second of the extra time. We're going to be, putting loads and loads of every last second into the development of MechWarrior. I've already answered that. And why, if I think it's so great, why don't I release it on all of them? Well, it's not possible for us. I mean, Epic does the exclusivity deals, so we can't go on GOG or Steam for 12. Do you have any plans to compensate those of us that don't refund our key with additional content? Not at the moment. We did talk about some extra incentive to keep your pre-order and not do a refund, but it was actually going to be MWO content. So I wouldn't rule that out 100%. If there was something, it would be MWO content, though. Just because the difficulty in putting it in MechWarrior 5 at this point would be too risky for the game, but MWO content, we can handle that on our own easily. Yeah, there will be other AMAs. I'm gonna have the one tomorrow about this. We'll put this subject to bed, but then we'll still have we'll definitely do some mod AMAs here down the stretch. So it might be a couple months, but we'll be in touch. Our goal is to still try to do one every month throughout the end here. So, Tina, I could go on and on. There's so many questions. Guys, I know a lot of you are frustrated. Some of you were saying, that's it, I got a refund, and that's too bad. Thank you for the pre-order at the time, though. I appreciate it. And, maybe we'll see you down the line. Those of you that are sticking with us, know that we love it, and we appreciate you guys. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. If you have questions that you still want to try to get answered, I'll try to answer different ones tomorrow so we can get through more. But thanks for this evening, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. PDT. All right, those of you can make
All right. That is the end of the AMA. I'm going to jump over to my Discord now if people want to come and discuss a little bit. I'm going to be in my Twitch stream channel. I'll put my headphones on so we don't get any crosstalk here, any echo. Let me do that, and let me do that. Give me 1 second. I can't actually hear you guys. 1 second. Why can't I hear you guys?
Hey, friends.
There we go. I couldn't hear you because you weren't saying anything.
We were waiting. We have the benefit of being able to see when you put your headset on.
So, lots of interesting discussion. I think there's some confusing things that were said. A bit of double speak. A bit of Russ said one thing, and then I want to say 20 minutes later said something very different. That was the what the fuck look I had on my face when everyone was like, "That's the greatest look ever." So let's
that should be an emote. You should make that an emote.
There we go. If only I had the artistic talent to do it. All right, so let's kind of go down the list. So let's start with the very top, and this is what Reddit pointed out, and then I tweeted at Russ about the whole, like, what about this FAQ thing? So Russ was basically saying that was an accident, that the FAQ was supposed to be just taken down and not left, and instead the FAQ was left up and kind of gave a hint into their plans. As to,
I thought he had said that it was supposed to be taken down and put up again at a later time, and it was just put up too early.
Well, yeah, he did, but here's the thing. He said the site was being redesigned, so the FAQ that was left it went from about 30 questions or so to 6. Now, here's the funny thing: is that none of the questions that were on the recreated one is even here. Like, the site wasn't they didn't show the new design of the FAQ. They just showed an FAQ that had 6 questions, down from 30. And I can pull up the archive of the original ones. So you can see the difference. They said that 6 in the one that was posted. That's one that people were asking a question with. And then this other one was, it was just there was. There was nothing there. But now, of course, it's all geared towards the Mech5 Mercenaries site. So that's the FAQ thing. So that kind of addresses that. And, Russ was he said that it was cagey. Well, he was being cagey. He was purposely avoiding the question because, and I kind of mentioned this in a few different forums as well, is that they wouldn't use that kind of a discussion to announce a big thing. Right? That's my thoughts on that. Is they're announcing something huge. Why would they why would they say use a Twitter discussion to go, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to an Epic Games exclusive? That certainly didn't work. So this is where the double speak happened. And if I heard this wrong, please tell me, because I want to try to be as fair as I possibly can. I heard that he said that they have been in discussion with Epic Games since MechCon.
Yes.
That's what I heard.
Well, they were approached, but it didn't lead to anything at that time.
Well, no, because Russ said that later, but at the very beginning.
I think
that's actually all he said at the very
saying.
beginning. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, he had a conversation.
Hold on.
Yeah, but he didn't say that there's no contents of the conversation.
He had a brief conversation with an old friend of his.
Oh, no, Cyclone.
No, he explained that later.
Yeah, but Cyclone, so here's the thing, is that he said it twice, and he said it in 2 different ways.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning, right? So again, keep in mind, I watched the whole AMA.
I was there too.
The very beginning, they said they've been in discussions with Epic Games starting at MechCon, or just after MechCon, I think is what he said. And then at the end of April, the Epic Games exclusive was confirmed, and then settled around the E3 timing.
Okay.
Those are the early notes. So this is like when he first started his discussion. And then later on, he then goes to say, well, it wasn't, he was answering a question. He's like, oh no, we had no plans about it at MechCon, but except for the fact that they were in those discussions, according to what he was saying, right? And maybe he misspoke, and I'm happy to kind of to allow that. It's just
the two comments that I heard him say was, the first one was the discussion that he had a brief exchange with a friend of his that worked for Epic Games, and then nothing came of it. And then when he revisited, he said that his wording was exactly the fact that he didn't think it would be a good fit. And then it was later on that they ended up coming back to it because of the numbers and the percentages.
Mm-hmm.
Except he said, quote, he reached out to Epic in April.
And he said that after doing some research and looking into Epic a little bit more thoroughly.
Yeah. So
who approached who?
By Russ's words, he.
Sorry, go ahead, Queen. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying, by Russ's words, he reached out to Epic, which was, again, interesting because later in the AMA, Russ would state that they knew that the game would have to be delayed to the fall prior to talking with Epic, which means that was during the time frame that pre-orders were going on, where they were selling it, stating, even a video stating the release date was September 10th. But yet he said he knew they were going to have to push it back.
No, I believe he said it might have to be pushed.
No. He said at the very end of the AMA, he goes, we knew it was going to have to be released in the fall.
Sounds like some double talk then, and I misheard. My apologies.
And I want to try to be as fair as possible. I do my best not to kind of pull out the pitchforks, but this is, I think, a good example of why I think people kind of can get confused by the messaging that comes out from Piranha Games, because in one AMA they said 3 different things. Ultimately, right? If I'm keeping count, they said 3 different things about the same subject. So I can appreciate people kind of pressing X to doubt on a few things that that they're perhaps their messaging isn't as clear as they would like it to be. So let's talk about these misconceptions that Russ feel that a lot of people had. And I want to focus on this second one, because this is something, I don't know if you tuned in before the AMA. We kind of chatted for like a good 30 minutes about this before the start. Is apparently people don't think that that people that they think that Epic Games doesn't think of the company, product, or game, when it's actually the complete opposite. That's all that Epic Games seems to really focus on, is they focus on the developer. And certainly, to an immense degree, they do. They focus on the developer. How much do you really think Epic Games focuses on the player?
Considering
if the
Fortnite
roadmap is, sorry, GT, go.
Considering Fortnite, they focus a lot on the player.
Yeah. Same thing with World War Z.
Now, aren't those Epic Games though?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
what
no,
about
World War Z,
non-Epic Games?
World War Z is a non-Epic game that was bought out by Epic after the fact, much like they're doing with MechWarrior 5.
So all of a lot of the conversations that I've read about Epic Games has actually been the complete opposite, in that Epic Games doesn't care as much about the player as they do the developer. And there's been some comments from the CEO that essentially back a lot of that up, with the way that the stance is, the fact that they use their kind of their FU money is the way that I like to term it. Is, you know, they do that because they think that they're trying to force change in the industry because just their revenue model doesn't attract the developers that they want to get. Right? Like you look at it, the 88-12 split versus essentially 35-65. And if we're talking a game that is released with the Unreal Engine, 30% to Steam, 5% to Epic, and then the rest to to the developer. Which, by the way, don't forget, brick and mortar stores were 50-50. Right? Steam kind of did the same thing, but they didn't buy the exclusives, and that's where it's very anti-consumer. Some people don't want to have multiple launchers installed. Some people disagree with the business practices of Epic Game Studios and who their investors are. Right? Tencent is the one that we hear a lot of controversy over because it's a Chinese company and typically the Chinese government has some pull or sway on companies in that are based out of China. So we can't say
the
that
argument could be made. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
The argument could be made that the shift that they're trying to do to the gaming industry in the long run is better for the players. No different than when you look at a monopoly in any other area of business. Steam really does have a monopoly on a lot of the game releases. Yeah, you can have your own little private launcher like Blizzard or some of the other smaller ones, but there isn't anything really competitive to Steam out there. There's a few token ones, arguably. So forcing this paradigm shift in the end is going to be, or potentially could be, made into or spun into it being in the player's favor in the long run. More money to developers means that they can spend more money developing the game and be able to be sustainable in a longer period. I'm not necessarily making that argument because of some of the points you made about the Chinese company, which makes me very leery about Epic, but that argument could be made.
Also, in the console world, there are exclusives. Sony is very big for that. Like, look at Horizon Zero Dawn and the Final Fantasy series. There's a lot of it, and I don't hear anybody bitching about that.
People
people complain about Sony all the time. Sony
that.
throws money at it like it's awful. Like if you look at the details.
But I'm also gonna say though that the console part is a very different animal.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say.
We're not.
Also,
this is This is not an apples to apples comparison, right? We're talking about a PC platform. Go ahead there, Cyclone.
So, if any of you have heard of a wonderful game that has literally developed a new genre into gaming, whether it be PC or console, by the name of Dark Souls, perhaps 1, 2, and 3, that went through the goddamn roof. Well, the same developers that made Dark Souls made a really awesome, almost steampunk style game called Bloodborne that went PlayStation only exclusive and proceeded to tank its fucking numbers through the goddamn floor because it was a PlayStation only exclusive.
Bloodborne is amazing too, which is really sad.
Thing is, God of War, the God of War series,
amazing.
never fucking tanked.
I've got something I could add to the whole console exclusives. Look at
No, I'm kidding. Sorry, I just wanted to say shut up, Mez. I just wanted to say it. Man. Go ahead.
So this is going to be a stroll back just like Bloodborne. Destiny 1.
Yep.
Oof.
Year-long exclusives at PlayStation. There's guns to this day that haven't touched Xbox.
Yep.
In that game. People were pissed. I was pissed.
Yeah.
And the Xbox community were laughing their ass off when PlayStation guys were looking for raid groups and couldn't find people.
Yeah, exclusives have done not great things.
And to be honest, the whole year-long thing with Epic, if it was shorter, I'd be fine with it. But a year, seriously.
In
You
the
know,
long run, a year's not bad, but
True.
It's kind of interesting to hear the fact that if you release on, like, it's not an option. You know, Russ said that, you know, releasing on Epic, you have to be exclusive. Like, I don't know if that's been a recent change, but that's what he said. You know, it was earlier in one of the questions.
For the deal. I think it
Or
was for
actually-
the deal, wasn't it? Where you
It's
get-
probably to get front page.
Yeah.
It's probably to get the game on the front page on Epic for a longer period of time.
And
Like
since
on
they're
Steam, he is
pushing-
correct. If the MW5 could just show up and disappear in a day.
Yep.
Very
Because
true.
of how many things just show up on Steam so quickly.
Mhm.
Okay, so
But
I've
The other
worked
thing
in,
that should
Epic
go
knows
ahead.
how many
Cyclone.
people use Steam.
I've worked and discussed with a couple people that have developed games and that have gone to different companies, i.e., Epic and Steam. So part of their negotiation tactic is to vie for the exclusivity, and that's where they hit you up with the 8812 and where they offer advertising and it'll span across the storefront. That's what they get you with. You can go Steam, Greenman, Humble, and Steam all at once if you want, but they don't offer promotions. They don't offer you front page access. They don't guarantee you time on the scan across, and they don't guarantee you 8812. Then it comes to straight up negotiations.
Since Rush is pushing for 1 million copies, he's
That's-
going to try and look for the most assured
Yeah.
advertisement.
The other thing that should be pointed out is the CEO of Epic did say if Steam would match them on what they charge for their share, that they would drop the exclusive gaming thing.
Yeah.
Whether he did it as a bluff and just did it for publicity, which is what I believe he did, or if if he was being legitimate about that. I mean, the ultimate thing from the Epic side of it, and again, I'm not saying I'm pro Epic, is that they are trying to shake up the industry for both the developers, and again, the argument can be made for the players.
See, here's the thing, though. I very much disagree with that bully pulpit that Epic Games is basically saying. Like, I actually have a huge disagreement with that, because what you're doing is they are trying to be the arbiters of the industry as opposed to letting the industry choose its own path, right? People can vote with their wallets. People can choose to go with a distribution platform that works best for them and provides them with the best services, the best features, all of those kind of things. The moment that you go to another company and say, "Oh, well, if you do this, then we'll do that," that's just kind of silly and childish, and I'll say not very. He's not kind of thinking very long term.
Well, even then, Steam has no reason to accept that whatsoever.
Well, no,
they have a successful business model,
and which is why I was saying that it was likely, it likely could have been a bluff. But let's look at the cellular industry in the United States. That exact same sort of tactic is used all the time between three of the big four. Sprint doesn't really get into that, but T-Mobile is constantly trying to shake up the cellular industry by doing the exact same thing that Epic just did.
I wish we had that in Canada.
And T-Mobile and Sprint are merging, aren't they? Didn't the DOJ just approve the merger? Is it T-Mobile and Sprint, or is it T-Mobile and something else?
It was being talked about. I didn't hear if the result has come out yet.
It was approved.
Yeah. Blue Sea brings up a good point in chat that if Steam took Epic deal, they're effectively doing price fixing, which is illegal. That's a kind of a good point.
And honestly, Epic's trying to get that going, which honestly, shouldn't they be getting a slap on the wrist?
See, I don't know. My whole thing is if you look at stores, if you look at companies, let's go very, very basic. Everybody, has parents or friends or family that drive, right?
Yep.
And on your morning commute back and forth to work, or even on a bus ride, or on a walk, or on a bike ride, whatever the case is, right? You pass by sometimes gas stations that are down the block from one another, right? You see one gas station has like regular fuel for like $2.89. and the one next to it's like, oh shit, I gotta lower my prices, so it's like $287 or some shit like that, right? This is what they're hoping to achieve. They're hoping to keep that competition going. They're hoping to do it with the devs to draw more games in. And in turn, much like the AMD Intel thing, it's going to help us, the consumer. The question is if it actually happens or works.
And that's what I was going back with the argument could be made aspect of it. But what I think is a more fair comparison right now is that Steam is basically Walmart. It has the Walmart effect going on.
Mm-hmm.
They are so big and have such brand recognition that nobody is thinking about going anywhere else, even though going somewhere else may be better for them in the long run.
Okay, so explain to me right now, how is it better for me to go to the Epic Game Store compared to the Steam Store right now? Tell me what is superior about the Epic Game Store, because I can tell you, because
my biggest thing, and the reason why I've never even considered the Epic Game Store, is that whole Chinese influence aspect of it.
Yeah.
So me worrying about that. So, but the Walmart aspect that Steam has in place, I can 100% can see. I just don't know what the benefits would be of me going elsewhere, which is why in this case I continue to shop at Walmart.
So here, I mean, the reason why I kind of challenge in that a bit, Rothgar, is if Epic Games had something really to offer in their store that really set them out from the rest, then I would be a little bit more interested, right? Everybody remembers when EA split off from Steam and created Origin, right? I'm not a big fan of Origin. I don't think it's that good of a platform, but it was certainly ready for prime time. They had a few things that they were building, but it was more or less ready for prime time. Epic Game Store only recently, very recently, added a shopping cart. You could get banned for buying too many games at once.
Wasn't there also a thing where people were losing games?
Yes.
Yep. People are losing games.
Games at free price from your library.
So
yeah, and you have to go buy it again.
So sure, yeah, they give you free games every couple of weeks, and I mean, again, I want to be clear. I have an Epic Games account, and I have partially because I wanted to protect my name.
Vacation.
But and, they release they release their free games, and aside from Subnautica at the beginning, which I think the Subnautica release was to get people to come over because Subnautica is a fairly big game. Not obviously not AAA, but certainly a big game. But when you look at the other games that were released, the only other one that's kind of really noteworthy is World of Goo. And recently Torchlight, but that's a 10-year-old game, 12-year-old game that they released for free.
Yeah, free game only matters if it's a game you want to play.
Yeah,
that too.
So this
free
is where
may be free, but
so this is where I want to be free. I want to be fair to Epic Games. Is Russ brought up actually a really good point. So we'll ignore I think we can all agree the Epic Games Store not very feature rich. There's not a lot of options there. They're very in a very juvenile state right now, not in a good way. But Russ made actually I will say that what he said here about the release cadence on games that are released in the Epic Games Store. This is an interesting argument to me. I actually, it's interesting that he said there was like 4 to 5 games released in Epic Games per week, so it provides more. They get more exposure on the front page. That actually was a reasonable argument to me. I actually appreciated that one. That was fair. What do you guys think of that compared to like the 150 games released
it really
on
makes
Steam?
sense.
That one makes sense.
Because a lot of shit gets shoveled on Steam, and it's released. Like, just watch any Jimquisition about Steam and the shit show that it is for game releases, and it really makes sense with what Russ said. Sorry.
Well, and it's free advertising dollars right there too. You open the Epic launcher, you look at the store, you see MechWarrior 5. It's free advertising.
Oh yeah, the amount of people talking about this right now is insane.
Yep.
Well, no, I'm just saying by having so few games coming in,
It'll stay there.
coming in and keeping it on the front page, that in and of itself is just free advertising.
And
It is free
knowing-
advertising, but how many people are going to see it on the Epic Store versus how many people would see it on Steam, even if it's only 1 or 2 days on Steam versus a week on Epic?
Well,
And if they had
remember,
a
there's a
pre-order out,
yeah, that's the question that we like.
if they had a Steam pre-order, how would that have affected it? You know, things
Yeah.
like that. Because if they actually tried putting it out there, and
The thing is, if
same
you have Steam
situation with
pre-order,
Metro-
you're locked in with Steam then.
Yeah.
According to what Russ said.
Yeah, exactly. So here's an important question. I know Abe Mortem was. I don't know if he's still hanging out in chat. I know he is a huge fan of Epic Games. Like, how many people play Fortnite? Because they have to play. My understanding of Fortnite is you have to play it through the Epic Games launcher.
You do.
So
That's correct.
if that's the case, then think of the legions of people that play Fortnite that have Epic Game Store accounts that would see MechWarrior 5, right? So we're thinking of EGS as this is a new this is a new thing, right? Which, I mean, technically, yeah, the Epic Game Store is a new thing. Oh, Abe Mortem launches through Fortnite through Discord, ironically.
Whoa.
Oh, rip everybody.
A lot more people might see it.
Ava, good job on supporting our argument.
Salute.
Good job.
A lot more people might see it
Accidentally,
opening
yeah.
up, but how many of those people are going to be wanting that kind of game? If
And
the advertisement doesn't go to the right people, it's wasted.
That's fair.
Consider
Even
the
if it's
age
free.
group in Fortnite. A lot of them are like elementary school level age groups.
That's
Think
actually-
about it.
That's
RGPX,
actually a
good
big
night, man.
misconception.
Because
Well-
if I, like, for me, if I get advertisements for games like Fortnite, I'm going to ignore them. They're not the kind of game I enjoy.
Sure.
And if I'm somebody who does enjoy Fortnite, what's the chance that I'm going to enjoy MechWarrior 5 or MechWarrior Online or any other kind of game like it?
So
yeah,
you
it
also
doesn't cost anything for it to get that advertising done. So even if they pick up a few incremental
It's visibility.
Yeah.
exactly. It's
the long
no
run, it
different
could
than
help.
someplace like Menards having groceries or
Nah.
Home Depot having groceries. It's not there to draw people in to buy their groceries, but if you're there and you're like, oh yeah, I need some milk, there it is.
Okay, I'm gonna dip out because honestly, I need to get my mind off this stuff.
Yeah, no problem.
Something
No problem,
else
man.
to
Thanks
take
for hanging
into
out.
account is that we won't be interacting with the underage group of Fortnite because, well, we're just gonna be playing with our friends.
Well,
True.
So why do we care?
Yeah, very
who
true.
buys the game?
You say that,
Well, I
but,
mean,
but
it-
Look at you, GTK, with all your friends and being able to play games with them.
Well,
But
I mean
hang
by
on-
the whole
hang on.
age group before I go, the interest. Is it really gonna be something interesting to them?
you show me a
Fortnite age
teenager that doesn't like stompy robots, and I'll say that you're a liar.
Actually, admittedly, one of the high schoolers at one of the schools I worked recognized MechWarrior, so and talked about MechWarrior 4 to me, like when, yeah, like he
Wow.
played 4 when he was a little kid.
Well,
I'm like,
actually, now that I think about it more, now that we've talked about it, no, there's going to be high schoolers, a lot of high schoolers in that Fortnite age group.
Mhm.
Well,
wrong.
what got me into MechWarrior in the first place was MechWarrior 2, and that was out when I was in high school. So,
Yeah, like
yeah.
the
look,
nostalgia
I'm a-
might save it.
Mez, you might teach. Do you teach elementary school or teenagers?
What I don't teach. I'm a paraeducator, so it's
Yeah.
like one of the supporting things of okay.
Either
I
way,
work with,
do you work with teenagers or little kids?
as a substitute, I was working with as old as seniors in high school and as young as first graders and kindergartners.
The whole
Okay,
range.
so I'm a parent to 2 teenagers, and one is a teenage boy who really likes robots, tanks, and blowing shit up.
True, there is that.
Now, is that an influence of the mother also liking that stuff, or is that purely him?
Well, the father too, but a lot of it is him because he loves he likes tanks, he likes guns, he likes military history, and the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, and if
To
you
be
walk down the
honest,
toilet
Military
aisle
history.
at any
Okay.
big box retailer, you're going to find robots and
Yeah.
rock'em sock'em robots type toys still today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and like it doesn't interest my daughter. She thinks it's cool, but it's not in her jam. But it interests my son.
So anyways,
know-
I mean, the reason why I brought up, sorry to interrupt here, but the reason why I brought that up is kind of a double-edged sword, right? With MechWarrior Online, we're kind of lucky in that, you know, our the average age of somebody who plays MechWarrior is certainly a lot higher than somebody who plays Fortnite or Dota or Counter-Strike or PUBG or anything like that. So we're kind of in this really kind of comfortable area where, you know, we can kind of, you know, we can be adults a little bit more. We can have kind of more, you know, conversations and not, you know, GG noob uninstall kind of thing on within the game. Now I realize, of course, that, you know, MechWarrior 5 is a single player, but with co-op, so you get to choose who you play. But, you know, is this who you play with rather? But is this you know, is this a good thing for the game to have more eyes on it? You know, I would pause it and say, yeah. Again, I'm trying to be as reasonable as possible. I'm not a huge fan of Epic Games Store, but I want to be as reasonable as possible here. And it kind of goes into the next piece that Russ was talking about, and he said something, and then he answered a question related to it, and I don't know if Russ completely understood. So he said that sales data indicates that the games on Epic Games Store perform better than Steam, and he's referring to their equivalents. So the previous version of the game released on Steam, when it was released on Epic Games, it performs better. Now, do you think that is a reasonable metric to go by when you're talking about game performance?
I don't think it equals to MechWarrior at all, because there's never been a MechWarrior game on Steam that
This is
was-
also an AMA. There's how much of the metrics did he actually talk about? There might be a lot more to the picture that we could even.
Well, he
talk
talks
about.
a lot about feelings.
Yeah.
Well, to be
Yeah.
honest, when we bring up the whole comparing, you could take the example of Fortnite to PUBG. Those two were kind of the big two in the whole Battle Royale stuff initially at the beginning.
Thanks for hanging out, man.
Think about it.
Have a good night.
Well, when he says that he was comparing stuff, like, yeah, sure, they do perform better. If the data says that, that's fine. But this is MechWarrior 5. There's never been a MechWarrior game on Steam.
Yeah, it's
that
been
was a single player or a co-op.
Yeah, and there's
also.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Val.
I was going to say there's also an argument to be made with some of these titles, you know, that are the sequels doing better on Epic, that the sequel was going to do better regardless because the previous game was super.
Well, the other way to look at it is this. Let's say the game does 3/4 on Epic Games that it would have done on Steam. Okay? That's still net positive for PGI, and in the long run leads potential for more DLC, et cetera, because it's more money inflowing into the developer.
True.
So even if the numbers don't get out there, you know, it's 750,000 copies instead of 1 million on Steam.
I'll be
Well,
surprised. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just because his goal was 1 million, I'll give him that. So let's say, you know, it's 3/4 of that on Epic versus what it would have made on Steam. Let's say he got the full 1 million. The amount of money influxed into PGI is going to be considerably more, which for those of us that love or are planning to love MGI, yeah, exactly, we're going to be able to get more bang for our buck because they're going to be able to keep producing it longer.
So
or
let
potentially roll MW2 Unreal.
Hey
Sure.
guys, I have to go to bed now. I'm exhausted.
All right, Snow Girl, you go to bed.
Take
Thanks
care,
for-
Snow Girl.
Thanks for coming to hang out.
Thanks.
So let me ask you let me ask you a question, and I'll preface this by, in case you didn't hear the distribution before. So the deal terms is 12% to Epic Games and 88% to PGI, and that 12% includes the license for Unreal, versus 30% to Steam, 5% to Epic, and then 65% to Piranha Games. So based on the community feedback, just from the information of what we have in front of us, right? The community feedback, kind of our discussion here. Do you feel that Piranha Games is going to end up on top with this?
So I think that largely depends on data that we might not necessarily have, that Russ might have gotten in his negotiations with. We don't know how many active daily users there are. We don't know how far those metrics go as far as different genres, aside from Fortnite. If we had that, we might be able to say something depending on, well, how many, simulator fans is this going to get on Epic, given that there's only a bus simulator and a truck simulator? I don't know.
So business-wise, PGI made a very good move.
Yes. Business-wise, they made a very good move.
Right.
Yeah.
Strictly looking at monetary values, if they can project and guarantee certain levels of sales, they're coming up ahead.
PR-wise, they made a terrible move.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if they had mentioned this earlier... if they had mentioned this earlier, if they didn't do like this whole touch and go thing of like delaying information and just holding on to it to the last possible moment, which I hate, it would have gone a lot more smoothly. Like if they had just said when they were doing the whole MechWarrior 5 pre-order thing with the Marauder 2, it would have gone much more smoothly. Sure, there would have been backlash, but not this much.
Yeah.
What troubles me is, based on the timing, it sounds like PGI was still selling pre-orders for this game when they knew they were already switching to Epic.
That I wouldn't say knowing they were switching. I would say knowing that they were potentially switching.
Well, they committed.
They were in talks by that point.
Yeah. They were in talks. But if I go to my notes here, they said there was a 3-day layover as far as actually having an established deal. Now, one thing I will say in defense of PGI here, and this is a slightly different circumstance. It's a personal one, but when it comes to contract negotiation and everything like that, I've been trying to buy a condo for the last 5 years, and I've had deals fall through at the last minute. So I can appreciate them not wanting to say anything. Like, even for me with my condo purchase, I didn't tell people on Facebook until I had signed on the dotted line, but I told them right away. So it's hard. I'm willing to give that, but I think that they should have announced it sooner. I don't think they really understood the concerns that people had, and to be honest, I don't really think they still understand those concerns.
Yeah. So my
wait, hold on, Logan, you're typing.
I would like on that. From my understanding from what Russ said, there was a verbal agreement in place with the 3-day layover. There was not an inked agreement.
Logan, you're typing.
Sorry, mate.
Are you typing something
we
good?
can hear you typing.
We can hear your keyboard.
Is it saucy?
Deal with it. Sorry.
Oh, you
fucking deal with it, boys.
If it was just a verbal agreement, I can understand them continuing for those 3 days and waiting until there was something officially inked. I had thought he had said that it didn't officially get inked until much later.
But it also would have gone more smoothly if they had said, yes, we are talking to PGI. Or not PGI, we're talking to Epic about an exclusive deal.
Oh, that I'll concede for sure.
Double-edged sword. Double-edged sword.
Yes.
And the reason being is that again, it comes down to until you have a signature on the dotted line, any kind of outside pressure could change the terms of a deal. Epic Games knows that that what they're doing is very controversial. Tim Sweeney knows that. I mean, he's talked about it a great deal. He doesn't care, but he knows that what the things that he's doing are very disruptive. He won't admit that they're anti-consumer, but again, I mean, my personal opinion is a lot of stuff that he's doing is very anti-consumer. So there could have been an understanding. There could have been a non-disclosure sign wrapped around this during these negotiations, whether it was verbal agreements or otherwise.
PGI could have also not said anything about actually talking to them.
Sure, and
There could
I
have been
don't
that in place.
I don't think that any of the games, and I might be wrong on this because I honestly I haven't been as invested before now, is I don't think any of the previous titles that went from Steam to Epic exclusive talked about the negotiations beforehand.
Nope, none of them did.
So yeah, there might be like an
that's just
NDA
standard
deal in
business
place.
practice.
Yeah.
Well, it could either be standard business or just an NDA. Like while we're talking about this, you can't discuss it until it's finalized in one way or another.
So let's move on to the next thing that he said, and this one really bugs me. Let me bold this and let me crank up the size here on stream.
I think you need that bigger.
Apparently, Russ doesn't think that we care about PGI making a profit.
Did he say that?
He did.
Yeah,
he said those
on
exact things.
which people, or like the people right here in this room were fine, but I accidentally got tossed into the general in the MechWarrior 5 Discord for like when that server thing flip happened.
Yeah.
Oh my god, there is so much salt, so much foul language. Like, oh my.
I heard it too, man. It was bad.
I don't want to talk about the MechWarrior 5 Discord, please.
Yeah, don't. You're gonna trigger Cyclone. He's gonna.
Okay.
On staying on topic, I have to be perfectly frank. If he doesn't believe that the community cares about PGI making a profit, then why on earth were there 20,000 pre-orders?
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, that then itself just completely negates that entire statement, makes it false, which is ridiculous.
Well, here's something I want to point out. You look at when the pre-order was going on for MechWarrior 5. Look what happened to some of the players for MWO. Oh, well, I don't want to pre-order MechWarrior 5 to get the free mechs for MWO. Why can't I just have the mechs already placed? All that complaining about, are they going to put the mechs into the game that were exclusive to MWO?
Oh god, yeah, I remember that. Yes, that was a fun one to navigate.
That could be part of where he's getting it from. We don't care if you make a profit. We just want our.
Yeah, there's a huge vocal contingent of that too, and that.
Very.
And if you ever want to, need to bleach your brain and your eyeballs, go read the MW forums and read all of the hate and vitriol that is talking about, they're just nothing but price gouging us. And if you look at other free-to-play games,
awful.
If you
Makes
really
me want to wash my mouth out with a shotgun.
And if you really want to, smash your thumb with a ball peen hammer, I'll link you the MWO Reddit.
Oh, it's terrible. Just
has the greatest hive of scum and villainy.
I just want to kind of give. Hang on, just one second.
ahead.
Just a housekeeping item here. Just like I am going to post this to YouTube afterwards, so we need to try to keep to TOS for both YouTube and Twitch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at other free to play games, and you look at their pay to win strategies in that type of game, and you look at MWO's model, when mechs are released, they tend to be a little bit more overpowered in cases, not always. Sometimes it's the other way around, but MWO has made it very clear that they're not going for the cash grab for pay to win. And if that's what if they really the vitriol that's being spewed at them about it's all about the cash grab, it would be way more pay to win than it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. No, I think Piranha Games has done a very good job at creating a free to play game that has I'll say reasonable monetization. I really do think that it's reasonable monetization. So I don't know. This one just bugs me, and maybe it's confirmation bias, and I'm happy to admit confirmation bias here. Is that the people who I interact with, generally speaking, want MechWarrior to be around. Yeah, I'll say it's like lukewarm as far as having PGI do it, but we wouldn't have MechWarrior Online and MechWarrior 5 if it wasn't for PGI in the current climate, right?
Yep.
I don't know if we would have BattleTech or this newest tabletop BattleTech Kickstarter release if it wasn't for.
Well, PGI stood up to fight Harmony Gold.
Oh yeah.
They did what no one did. So for that, I will forever have respect to them.
And they were willing to crawl into bed with IGP.
Yeah.
I have an honest question. Did anyone ever think what it cost PGI to stand up to Harmony?
Probably a ton in legal fees.
Too much.
I can tell you with personal experience that legal fees are not cheap. My friend does international business and law, and when he rakes in a paycheck from one case, he doesn't have to work for a year.
Can I have his job, please?
And he's not rolling around in a Honda.
Of course you can.
He's not rolling around in a Honda. Haas rides around in a Maserati, and he doesn't have to work for a year.
Oh, he has terrible taste in cars.
Basically a Honda.
A Maserati, really? Oh God, diabolical.
I see them all the time in the streets of Richmond, like. Not even
the old Maseratis, like the old Quattroportes, were lovely, but the new ones, ugh.
Well.
Anyway, sorry.
You get my point.
Well, you're British. You can do that.
First world problems in here. Oh, Maserati.
Yeah, right?
So
this is
go ahead, Cyclone.
This is what I meant though. Like they did throw down a lot of money. They fought for the little guy. They fought for us, and we responded in kind. 20,000 pre-orders is nothing to scoff at. And let's think about this seriously. What kind of advertising and publicity did they get from MechWarrior 5 that spurred on 20,000 pre-sales? Oh, look, they got sponsored on a magazine cover, and everything else was all the community. Let's think about that one.
Oh, for sure. Like, it shows the passion of the community. That, I mean, it's a small community, but I would say a very passionate community about BattleTech and MechWarrior. It's certainly that shows how good the community is. And that's I'm sure that made the Epic Games exclusive such a tough decision for Piranha Games, because that's they kind of knew, right? We kind of knew that something was going to happen. I'll admit I was wrong. Okay, I try to keep things as reasonable as possible, and when I saw the wording of the MechWarrior 5 FAQ, the one that they reposted, the language told me that they were going to release on multiple stores. And they were removing Steam just to kind of, not kind of prefer one store over the other. I was wrong on that, and I'll happily admit that I was wrong. But I was dealing with the information that was in front of me. So, 20,000 pre-orders, like you said, Cyclone. They said 700 requests for refunds so far, and they said they're gonna refund everybody, no questions asked.
It's out of their pocket.
It's out now.
Yeah, that blew me away.
No subsidy.
Epic Games is not giving them funds for refunds. It is coming out of PGI's pocket. So I'm not gonna ask the folks here if you are going to refund or not, and I'm not gonna ask that in this guy. That's not a fair question. But what I would like to do is I would like to ask what you think about the refund policy that PGI has done. To recap, you get to keep all the MechWarrior Online content, which if you had bought at the highest level, it's $300 worth of MechWarrior Online content. But you lose everything around MechWarrior 5 with the exception of access to Discord. They're not going to kick people out of the pre-order Discord if you pre-ordered and then refunded. So what do you think of that? What, as far as a developer response to something that they knew was going to be controversial?
If they took away the content as well, which would kind of be impossible, then things would just really hit the fan. But this was something they had to do.
Like, personally, like, if I was getting a refund, I would be willing to give the content back in MWO. I don't know about anyone else. But, like, to me, a refund is a refund. I would give everything that has been given to me back because it's part of the package.
Right.
I'd be willing to give back.
Yeah,
This
I
was
do.
the only play they had.
I'd be willing to give back the content too. I
But the
guess
thing
they
is,
kind
it's
of have to
us.
do what they did
Like,
though, in order to avoid any legal ramifications in the future.
Sure. And I just I want to I just want to be clear of one thing. Please don't say whether you are or are not going to refund. I don't think that that's really relevant to the discussion. I really do want to focus on just the refund policy. So let's just try to keep it to that. I know nobody said anything, but I just want to be clear about that.
I think
I can have a word here.
Yeah, go ahead, Cyclone. Sorry.
I think the refund policy is actually really generous. The fact that they're allowing us to pretty much get how much money worth of in-game content for a game that we love, and they were giving us a game for free. Now we're giving the game back, but all that money that we paid for, we're getting back, which equates to more than what we're getting out of the in-game content for MechWarrior Online. Let's think about that.
yes, the in-game content in MW costs more than the initial cost of MW5.
And
if you were
we
to
get
buy it outright.
And we get to keep that. They just lost money twice. And they're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty much admitting, without saying that they're admitting, that they fucked up, or that there's changes now, and we understand that you might not be happy with them.
No, I would say that he flat admitted that. That.
May I play devil's advocate for a moment and ask, in all seriousness, how much money have they actually lost, so much as it's content for a game which is already out of season and looks as though it's on decline to a point where it's going to be retired very soon?
You could look at it that way, but they didn't have to give it at all. A lot of companies that do, if you purchase content, they usually take it back.
They had to
didn't
do
have
something,
that.
though. They couldn't have done nothing, otherwise there would have been even a greater community backlash than already has been. So they had to make a play, and this made their play, but truly, how much are they actually out of pocket for in the greater, grander scale of things? Again, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Even if it's lesser value, it's still gravy.
We kind of, to further what Loken was saying, and what somebody in chat said, how much does it actually cost to give digital pixels to somebody? What we got in MWO, yeah, we got the MC, yeah, we got, the mechs, but that doesn't really cost a ton of money to PGI. But is it something that many of us would have ended up potentially dropping money on anyway? Now and again, I do drop money on MC just because I like to, paint my mechs pretty colors with random patterns, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. Would I have spent? Did I spend more money on the package than just the game itself would have cost? Absolutely.
Yep.
So they made more money off of me based off of the rewards.
I am more of that line of thought where they're not really losing out on money because of the stuff they gave us, like the mechs and the MC. Well, the MC is potential loss, but it's also still.
I don't know. I kind of disagree there. You have to consider the fact that there were 11 mechs between the Marauder 2 and the 4 bonus pre-orders. I know that the Marauder 2 was released outside of the pre-order, but they included it in that cost. But you also have to consider the artist time needed to create that custom skin for those 4 mechs. I mean, yes, those 4 mechs they've been in the game. The chassis themselves have been in the game for a long time, but there's certainly a lot of time and effort that goes into that. I don't know if you've tuned into any of the streams on the Piranha Games channel where it's one of the artists. I can't remember her name, but where she shows off like how mechs are modeled and how the skins are modeled, that sort of thing. There's certainly some labor costs associated with it. Now,
a lot of time.
Yes, there is labor costs associated to it. That's why it's $60 every or so of a mech for a pre-order. But it's the MC is where they lose most of their money. Like when they got the MC from the pre-order, that's where they're losing most of their money that they can't get back because that's taking away actual in-game money.
The other thing somebody else had said, and I don't remember who, was that that they could try to take all that stuff back, but it wouldn't be practical. Like I said, I like to buy and paint pretty mechs, random things. So that MC just isn't all sitting there anymore. So they couldn't just take back all of that MC. So taking the mechs back, yeah, they absolutely could do that. but the MC that people have spent, they couldn't really renege and take that back, or charge us back for that. So it was, I mean, so in a way, if you're in for a penny, in for a pound on that, is kind of what I thought. Maybe that conversation would have happened at some point at a table or over a cup of coffee or whatever. The other thing I wanted to point out that I thought was really an interesting point. They said that, we're going to refund, no problem. But there's also the stipulation, and I was reading it online earlier, that because people were talking about just charging back their credit cards and
You don't do
disputing
that.
the charge.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. That
Yeah,
is very, very
don't
bad.
do that. Yeah, that's very, very bad for a lot of reasons. But they did announce that if you do that, they are going to ban your account on MWO.
And somebody has done
because
that
of
already.
all
This
of
is
the
this
negative.
Yeah, people have already done that.
That's
long time
happened
ago.
to me on a double charge. They charged me twice for a mech pack. I charged back the double charge, and they banned me for 3 days.
Yeah, always ask support first. Also, as a guy who works for a bank, if you try to charge something back and con your bank into saying like, "Oh, this isn't whatever, this isn't," like, your bank can take action against you as well.
Yeah,
because you're
there's
not being genuine about the circumstances.
a lot of bad things can happen to all the parties involved in a chargeback. So
Right, which is why I'm glad they had made that announcement. As it was the fine print, quote unquote, but it was still out there and very specific, because they wanted to make sure people, if they wanted their money back, yes, we're going to give you your money back. We have an avenue for you to get your money back. Do it the right way. This is the wrong way. Do not do this. Do it the right way.
One thing I am happy about is that the people that were promised Steam codes are now just getting Epic Game Store codes.
Yeah, actually,
instead of just having to buy a new game.
That's true. I mean, one thing that kind of took Russ back, I love that in one of the questions. I mean, we're not, I don't want to go through all the questions individually. That's going to be a very long conversation, but I mean, we'll certainly kind of poke in. So Russ was kind of taken aback at the one person who asked the question, said, "If I wait a year, will you give me a Steam code?"
because they didn't expect it.
He didn't actually know how to answer that, and I kind of find that amusing, like certainly amusing. So I go ahead, TJ, go ahead.
Something I'd like to bring up though is there's another game recently that had the same kind of thing happen, and that was with Metro Exodus. Couldn't they have done something similar to that?
No, they explained that situation.
Yeah.
So the way that Russ explained it, and let me go down, because I did take some notes on that on that particular question, is that the whole, like, the initial Epic Games kind of exclusives, right? The one that they started pre-orders on Steam, and then they decided, you know what, let's go to Epic Games. What this spurred is this spurred a change in the I'm just finding my
Steam
notes here. There
policy.
we go. So it changed it spurred a change in the policy, not only with Valve, but with Epic Games as well, right? So it's basically you are committing to one or the other. Now Valve is a little bit more loose. They allow kind of releases on multiple platforms, but once you're committed to releasing on Steam, once you've got your game in the store, you have a contract that basically says that you have to release it. And if you think about this for just a moment, right? You got the Metro, was it Metro Exodus?
Yes.
Okay, so Metro Exodus, they're honoring the people that bought it on Steam, which means they have access to the Steam content delivery network forever, because they don't retire games off of Steam. So that means that 10 years down the road, you can reinstall Metro Exodus on Steam. Steam doesn't really make a lot of money from that, right? And there's a point when the content delivery network, either the CDN, is actually it costs them money. But that's also kind of on the Epic side, and Russ kind of addressed that in a follow-up question, a different question, around why they didn't release on Epic in addition to GOG and Steam, etc. And Epic only does exclusives with their deals. They don't allow for and there's usually a time limited exclusive, right? So it goes back to that. It has to, if you're going to release on Epic, then it has to be exclusive. If you want to take advantage of the 12%, including the Unreal license fee, then it has to be an exclusive. So it was very and you know, I'll say good on Valve. Good on Valve, the fact that they changed their policy to to combat that, because that was huge. That's a huge slap in the face to Valve, because they're like they get the marketing power of Steam, which I think, I mean, despite the fact that we've got a lot of there's a lot of games on Steam. They said 150 titles released every week. They have all of that traffic happening on Steam, but if it's a popular game, people really kind of get involved in it, and then to all of a sudden have it pulled from the Steam store because it went Epic Games exclusive. Good, I say good on Valve for going in and changing the agreements to make it so that, hey, once you're at that level, you're releasing with us. But what do you guys think?
The thing that I'm worried about is if the game releases in a year on other platforms, Russ doesn't know if they're going to be compatible with the Epic platform.
Well, he said that, but he also pointed out that people would be able to connect over IP. I think that's just Russ not wanting to commit to anything because he's not a developer. I don't see, I work in IT, so I kind of, I'm not on the developer side obviously, but I'm certainly on the technology side. Aside, if you're doing a direct IP connection, I don't see a way that would be different between Epic Games and Steam. I think if you're limited to just the friends and the friends integration, I can see that being a challenge.
What about the mods though? What about a mod that's done in the Steam Workshop versus the other avenue that Russ was talking about?
It shouldn't matter because it's still the Unreal Engine regardless. It's just that all that the Steam Workshop does is it provides you a nice GUI interface for installing mods that you would otherwise do manually.
The other thing to keep in mind is that he was talking about cross-platform. So he could have been very particular on his language, because if this were to come out on Xbox One X or PS4 or any of those, if he says, yes, it's going to be cross-platform compatible, he's just said, if we release this on console, it's going to work with computer. So he may have been choosing that wordage based off of potential console release down the road and not knowing if you'd be able to do cross-platform that particular way.
Yeah, I think the term crossplay was used perhaps inappropriately. I think when people were asking about crossplay, they were referring to Steam versus GOG versus Epic, where I think
not video game systems.
Yeah, like the term crossplay is used when you're talking about PlayStation versus Xbox versus PC. So I don't know if maybe I'm reading in too much into it, but I think that Russ maybe perhaps misunderstood the question, because PC is PC.
I don't think
is
so,
PC.
because he did say he didn't see an issue. He goes, I don't know for sure, but I don't see an issue between crossplay between Steam and Epic. He did say that specifically, but he also left himself out of I didn't officially confirm cross-platform play, because if it does, and what I took away from that was if it comes out on console.
Mm-hmm. So okay, we're coming up here. It's 8:00. I've been streaming for a while now. I kind of want to wrap this up a little bit, and you're welcome to answer this or not. And no, I'm not asking if you're canceling your pre-order or not. Again, I do not think that's a fair question. I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to ask people to that. What I'm going to do is I just want to kind of raise a couple things as to what is certainly making me think about my pre-order. I kind of want to phrase it that way, to be like, based on what was talked about in the AMA tonight, what we know about the Epic Games Store from a general perspective, there's certainly a couple standout items here tonight that are really making me think. The first of which I'm just gonna go. I'm not doing this in any particular order. I'm just doing this based on the order from the notes that I took. So the fact that Russ said that EGS is a couple games per week that are released and is more time on the front page, that's a compelling reason for me to consider that. Yeah, the EGS, Epic Games Store. I'm sorry, I'm using EGS as a shorthand here. The Epic Games Store might be a reasonable. A reasonable reason to consider that. There's certainly the business, the economic decision around the 12% versus 35% that they lose from licensing and content delivery. There's the disconnect that I think Russ has with I'll say the more rational community. I think might be a fair statement to say as far as around PGI making a profit. I mean, if PGI doesn't make a profit, we don't have a game that we love, so we certainly want them to kind of make a good profit and to live forever and have MechWarrior on MechWarrior Online on on Unreal. I would certainly be stoked about a lot of that. But on the flip side, I have concerns about the security of the Epic Games Store. I have concerns around the functionality of the Epic Games Store, around the influence of third parties on the Epic Games Store. How much of those influences there, and how important that is. Again, that's kind of a discovery for me. Blue CM Canadian color is spelled incorrectly. If you don't put a U in color, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
Do you know why Americans don't spell color with that?
Because they spell things wrong?
No, we wanted to tell the British we're getting rid of you.
Oh my! So
that makes sense.
Now, and
Thanks,
again,
Dad. That was a great joke.
And again,
You're welcome.
I want to be very clear, and I pulled this up on stream just so people know that I'm not fibbing. I have an Epic Games Store account. I am considering being part of they have a special program for influencers, where if somebody indicates in a game purchase that an influencer influenced their decision or give them thing, that the influencer actually gets a percentage of that. I'm considering, entering myself into that program so I could have the potential of earning a revenue stream from there. So I do want to be crystal clear about where I stand between the two. So, I just so based on that, I am leaning towards, and again, I don't want, and if nobody else is comfortable, and I'm not going to ask this, I am leaning towards keeping my pre-order because I love the game. I love MechWarrior. I've played MechWarrior since MechWarrior 3050 for Super Nintendo. I've played the game a long time. It's tough for me to say no to this. However, I have some very, very important pieces that I have to really consider before I make that decision. So based on what you've heard tonight, based on the AMA discussion, the discussion that we've had here, and by the way, thank you guys for coming in and talking here. It's actually been great to kind of have this nice little cross-examination and get some other views on this. It's too bad Ave Mortem didn't show up in chat. Well, he's in chat, but he didn't come here in Discord and hang out and talk with us. I know he's very pro Epic Games. It would certainly be good to have that. I'll say that perspective in this chat. But for those that want to talk, for those that want to talk or want to mention, what are the things that are going to potentially influence your decision as far as your pre-order is concerned? If anything,
in the FAQ it says that MechWarrior 5 is a single-player game, and you won't need the Epic Games Store's client up to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen more than a couple of issues with friends, family, where they're playing and that client just craps the hell out of on you and stops your game. If you can play MechWarrior 5 without the client active, that'd be a decision maker for me, or one of them for me.
Okay.
My biggest concern either way is kind of like, I touched on it earlier and you just kind of touched on it now, is the security related to the third party interests. I would be very leery if when you're setting up your account, we're required to put any sort of
purchase information.
Yeah, that's a good term for it. Purchase information into the client to have it stored. That would and there's no, without installing the launcher now or talking to somebody who has it like you, there's no way for me to know that. And I want to do a little bit more research into not only past transgressions as well as where they're at for security presently. And that's 100% going to be my influencer either way.
Okay.
We have functionality, we have security.
Functionality, that'll come with time. I have complete faith in that. My biggest concern is completely security.
So I'm gonna weigh in a little bit if y'all don't mind.
Of course, go ahead.
I've had Epic like yourself, Nutty, for a while. I've heard the counterparts and complaints behind it all. Everybody's like, oh, well, there's security breaches, there's this, there's that, the other thing. Quite literally, the same issues with security and personal information were the same exact problems that we had back in the day with GameSpy and we had with Steam. It's growing pains. It's going to get fixed. It's going to move on. It's not, I don't want to say it's not a big deal, but it's not something that we haven't seen before. All right. One of the biggest things and one of the biggest complaints that I had today, while I was doing my thing and while other people were bringing shit up, was that, oh, they're in league with a company that, did all these horrible things to people that were involved with the Chinese government. Let me be clear. The company, the entity that owns percentage in stock doesn't control what the company does. They just own a percentage of the stock. They're not part of the company. Just because this company who's thrown money at the Chinese government before owns stock in Epic doesn't mean that Epic is now going to sell all of our information to the Chinese government.
What percentage of stock do they hold? Do you know off the top of your head, Cyclone?
40%.
40%.
Yeah, Tim Sweeney is the controlling shareholder. Tencent has a 40% stake.
Yes. So, no, it's not 48, it's 40. There is sketchy stuff that was done and that happened. We all know this. It's happened with how many other places? Look at what the hell's going on with Facebook. They're going through 8 lawsuits right now where they're projected to pay out over $4 billion. I'd be a little more concerned about Facebook and Instagram and what's the other social media place?
Twitter?
No, the other one with all the pictures and the art and shit like that.
Instagram.
No. The one that they just mixed all the porn off of.
Instagram.
Tumblr.
And Tumblr.
Don't have
you've
to worry
got
about
those-
it if I don't have any.
Yeah, so you've got these 3 people that have all these influences from Facebook that are owned by Facebook, that even if you don't have an account, if anyone's ever posted pictures of your face or geolocated or tagged or mentioned your name, they have information on you. I understand what you're saying. I don't have a social media account. Nobody's got any of your information. You're full of shit if you think that. Or you're foolish if you think that. All these companies have information on you, whether you have an account or not. This is just another
Google.
Yeah,
Well,
this is
got
just
your
another
information.
game. This is just another game company that wants to put games up and let you have fun with them. They made some mistakes. They're fixing them. We'll move on from here. It's MechWarrior, guys. Who doesn't love giant stompy robots? Let's have some fun.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I put my money into the pre-order. At this stage, I consider it long gone. I'll just wait for whatever.
Sorry, Dark, you dropped off there.
About where did it drop off?
Long gone. And then nothing.
So I'll just wait for what comes. what happens.
Dude, you got to talk to your close to your mic or change your open mic settings because you get cut. Keep on cutting yourself out. All right, while Dark's sorting that out, anybody else?
Discord just cut out on me. Like it went red, voice
Welcome
disconnected. It came back.
Oh, it didn't for me.
Okay, maybe that's what happened to Dark.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Let me. I'll shuffle the region here. Give me a second. I'm in the U.S. West right now. Let's go U.S. East.
Clearly, this is PGI DDoSing you.
Oh yeah, this is
we must cancel pre-orders.
Yes, 100% PGI. 10 out of 10. Would blame PGI again. No. I'm kidding.
Kid.
So I think this has been a pretty good discussion. It's been productive. The AMA was I'll say there were some difficult pills to swallow. I think Russ brought up some good points. I think he maybe missed on a few other things, and I think he maybe he's focusing on Reddit opinion too much and not so much about the opinion of the silent majority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest.
At the end of the day, obviously, PGI made a business decision that they felt would help them the most.
Sure.
It could have been handled differently, obviously. The communication could have been better, but at the end of the day, they made a decision in hopes of extending their life as a company. Now, how we decide to obviously take it or not that's on us. But at the end of the day, games will be sold. They'll be sold on Epic, and life will keep going.
Yep. There are certainly valid criticisms of PGI's decision, certainly valid criticisms of Epic Games. In the end, like you said, Queenblade, it's up to us as individuals to decide as far as what we're going to do. If we've pre-ordered, if we're going to keep the pre-order or not. If we didn't pre-order, if assuming they do some kind of normal pre-order, if you're going to get involved in the pre-order stage, or if you're going to buy the game, or if you're going to wait for a year, so December 2020 before it comes out on Steam. Ultimately, I can't make that decision for you. I certainly have to spend a bit of time to think on it, honestly. And again, being clear about where I stand. I've got an Epic Games account. I'm looking at adding an influencer status so people can kind of credit me as to why they purchase a game. It's certainly something that I'm considering doing. But no, this is they needed to do this. Unfortunately, it happened at a time where people were pretty upset and concerned, and I totally get that. But any last thoughts from folks here before I go and chat with the viewers in the stream there, because I've got a few quite a few follows and everything to get through. So
I don't know how I feel about putting any trust in Epic, but I am grateful to PGI that they've been relatively transparent about this whole thing.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I appreciate the open dialogue. I appreciate talking with everybody about it. I appreciate that the fact that salt levels have been relatively low. And I've had so many different content creators in the room chit-chatting and talking about all this. It speaks to the character of the community. Once again, I've said it 100 times. Our community, in my opinion, is some of the best that I have ever seen.
I hope Russ has a better day tomorrow than he did today.
Yeah.
I'm just actually throwing out some shout outs right now for the content creators that are here in Discord with us. Rothgar, I hate your name. Because I wish I could actually spell your name right, but I can't. So just type in Twitch chat so I can quickly copy and give you a proper shout out.
I am.
There you are. Okay, yeah, I hate your name. Almost as much. No, I don't. I don't hate your name. just as much as I hate Lady Wolf's name, because Lady Wolf 142
I have
underscore.
a friend that has the word king in his name, but it has 3 I's, and I always screw that part up.
Oh goodness! And don't forget you got like to King Wesker, who's now Wesker underscore.
That's Canadian.
But yes, thank you to everybody for hanging out here. Bishop Warrior was hanging out in chat here, just a little, and Starwolf. No, I'm a little lazy, maybe a little lazy, kind of, somewhat. But I gotta say, I gotta go and chat with the stream here, folks. Thank you, everybody in Discord, for the discussion. I appreciate the fact that we were able to keep it respectful, that we were able to kind of see things from all angles, and have a productive discussion and listen to the AMA. So thank you very much for actually making this actually pretty cool. I do appreciate all your time.
Yeah, man. Take it easy, Nutty. Have a good one, brother.
All right, I gotta go talk to the stream now. I'm disconnecting from
Thank
Discord
you
now.
very
I'll talk
much.
to you guys later. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what I missed here during the AMA and subsequent discussion here. There's certainly a lot. New followers in the form of I'm gliding in here, Dentium, Reptile Shinobi, Guardian Kilo 115. Guardian Kilo sounds like you got a new Twitch account. Timeliness, thank you for the follow. Deadly Bob, Arch X Junta. Those are the new followers. Gitka comes in with a host for 6 viewers. I know Gitka's been hanging out. Oh, that reminds me. Starwolf, can you throw a shout out there for Gitka? I keep on forgetting Gitka 666. Gitka was providing some really good some really good input. Absolutely fantastic. Oh crap! Hang on a second. Let's take a look here. Then we got Bria comes in with 10 bits, saying thanks for the broadcast. Thanks for the broadcasting. Let me see if I can unmute the alerts here and make that play. Let me find out. There we go.
Thanks for broadcasting that, Nutty.
Strong Paul, I will send you a PM as to why I did that. Very important. Give me 1 second. All right, guys, 1 second here. All right. Who else here? We got Blue Sea coming in. Hang on. There we go. There's Blue Sea. Pocket Salt, 5 bits from Blue Sea. Bronze comes in with 50 bits.
Good day.
And then we get into the resubscriptions. We got Jesserick coming in with a 6-month resubscription.
You're cool, smiley face.
I'm cool, apparently. And Meerkat comes in 20 months support from Meerkat. And last but certainly not least, the lovely Android gal comes in for a 10-month resubscription. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for hanging out tonight. Again, this is a night that I normally don't stream, but as you can imagine, I couldn't resist streaming it. Again, a huge thank you to everybody in that showed up in Discord, and of course, all of you guys hanging out here in Twitch chat as we went through the AMA from PGI. For those of you who don't know, there is going to be another AMA from Piranha Games tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So you're certainly welcome, encouraged rather, to to go and join that AMA, ask other questions, see if they're going to answer any of the questions that weren't answered last time. Interested to hear what's going to happen with MechCon, if it's going to happen. He rather avoided that question, artfully avoided that question. 10 a.m. specific sign. That's right, Queen Blaze. For the EU, AU folks, though, I saw JZ hanging out in chat amongst a few other Aussies, so I think a few of them decided to go in anyways. But if you guys do want to watch this later on, I am going to post this up on Discord. I am going to post the whole VOD up on YouTube for you to watch. Thanks again for tuning in. My name is Nutty Rat. This is the NuttyCast. Good night. We will see you again tomorrow night for the MWO Happy Hour, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure you hang out. It's ridiculous. It's fun. If you've never tuned in for the happy hour, make sure you do so. Until then, have a wonderful night. We'll see you again tomorrow night.